Mostly we're going to work on what is called Doce Tero. Doce Tero is just the 12 strikes, that's all it is. That word Tero actually in Binasaya just means shots, 12 shots. And so we're going to work on our paradas to start with. But there's a dimension to parada that you may not be aware of, or you may, I don't know. But there's a dimension to it. So I wrote down 8 different parada drills that we'll do. But here's the thing. We'll go through these. Ken knows these. I worked with them the last 2 days. And so he knows these drills and can carry it on from there. But I want to introduce these to you. And when I look at you, even though not everybody has a desire to teach, but my goal, my growing up, so to speak, in this art was that I learn how to teach what I learn as soon as it's proficient and I can teach somebody else. As soon as I'm not making a bunch of goofy mistakes, I can teach somebody else. So when I look at you, I look at you as future teachers. So I want to be careful to articulate things correctly, give you the sense of the art so that, who knows, one day you have your own club, or maybe you just teach your son, or you teach your daughter, or something like that. You're a teacher to them, right? A mentor and so forth. All right, so I said I wasn't going to talk a lot, and now I go talking. So let's go with one baston. Sir. Yes, sir. I am on a journey also with the art to shore up our language. So when I say shore up, this art, as Batikan predicted, is going to go kind of crazy. There's going to be tons of seminars. There's going to be people teaching what do you call the Semianr genre, but then there's going to be others that teach it as it is meant to be. And what it's meant to be is a fencing art to start with. Fencing art with principles that fold over into other principles is kind of how the art works, and that's the systematic aspect of it too. So when I teach you an angle, angle 1, what comes in this angle, how you treat it, and what comes in this angle at you, how you treat it. These are high angles. What comes in low angles, what comes in really low angles. How do you deal with that type of an assault? So that's how we're going to, that's how it builds. So to start with, let's go from just Alisto, our feet together. This is the way you would start to train someone and yourself, how these movements go. So from here, Alisto, and you go to number 1, right? USA. So our club generally, the main club for US, mainland, we try to use as much Benasaya in our stuff as we do. So this is USA, this is 1, right? Duha, this is 2. Tulo, 3. And this comes right over your hand. 4, upa. 5, here. 6, here. 7, here. 8, here. 9, here. Now, if we were just going to 10, this would be 10. Okay? So go back to 9. That's our alternate 10, right? We got these alternate moves. 10. 11 is here. 12 is here. 10 is here rather. 11 is here. And 12 is here. Okay, good. So these don't mean a whole lot unless you're doing something with them. So to start with, your positions that you've taken, and I'll just kind of demonstrate and then we'll look at it further. So you've learned the position of Avante with this. So I have my position here like this, right? This leg is back because this leg's going to come forward with my strike. So this is just a position. And this is a position here. If I'm doing Usa Kalakong, 1 stepping, I'm going forward and back. If I'm going V Kalakong, I'm just doing this in this V Kalakong. All that is to, first of all, teach you the moves, then to teach you to step in those moves. And generally, we run through the stepping, and that kind of gains some information for you. The basic stepping is only about 4 or 5, but the full stepping method of Kasag is probably about 10 or 12. And by that, I just mean there are different ways that we teach to step. Ken, I don't know what Ken has taught you, but he may have taught you those different ways, cross-stepping, stepping and shifting, and there's all kinds of different ways. All right, so typically, and I think I've seen this on the video, we'll put these into a beat so that when we go back to this position, which generally we call Andam, it just means a prepared position, or this would be one. This would be one right here, and my strike would be here, right? That's my strike. And then I'm going to come back to Alisto. So it's a 1, 2, 3 thing. So let's go through this with Doce Teros. So from Alisto back to Andam, or number 1, going forward, and strike, and back up, and then to Alisto. Number 2, back, strike to the side, and Alisto. Number 3, back, strike across, and Alisto. Number 4, from here, and strike across, and Alisto. Number 5 here, and strike, Alisto. Number 6 here, go, Alisto. Number 7, position the parada and strike, Alisto. Number 8, and strike, Alisto. Number 9, strike, Alisto. Number 10, strike, Alisto. Number 11, strike, Alisto. Number 12 is a little bit different. So number 12, I want you to go back like this. When you go forward this way, this leg isn't going to come forward, but this one is just going to skip forward. It's called a fencer's step. So from here, I'm going to skip forward in this. There's my number 12. Why do we do it that way? Number 12 is generally a teaching break where a student starts to learn a variety of different things. That would be medium close range or long medium range. And this movement here is actually the drawing of a weapon, another weapon, my bara, my dagger. So I may draw from behind for that position. I may draw from the side, wherever you draw from. There's about 3 different positions that are best. Okay, so if we take this drill and we put it to a beat, right? I think you've done this, right? You've done this. So we're going to put it to a beat. The reason for the beat is because as you go through your training, you're going to see that there are so many different cadences to different combat circumstances that the beat is a helpful way to get you into that cadence, or see it's a cadence. So I will get my clave, or claves, right? So your initial position that you're in is Alisto, right? Okay, so then when you go into your next position, here, right? Here, and hold, back. All right, so let's start just like that. So from Alisto and 1, strike, and 2, and strike, and back, 3, 4, and strike, 4, and back. So we have an alternate syncopated beat, because combat situations, and I don't care, some of you have probably been in combat, you know that there is a type of rhythm behind it, a type of rhythm within it. There's a long distance rhythm. There is a distance where it is a sort of long medium, and then there's close in. So each of these things, though, have a type of cadence with them. So when we are utilizing our weapon or utilizing empty hand, we are sort of after those cadences. And it's something that we recognize internally. And the point is that I want to break the cadence. I want to maybe set up a cadence and then break the cadence with a syncopated move. That sounds kind of ethereal, I know, but that's basically a concept of combat, is these cadences that exist within the combat, and how those cadences are broken or they change in the beat. They change from a fast cadence to a slower cadence. it just depends. If you're moving in on an opponent and you are going into corto, which is close range, and you get in there, the cadences are a little bit different now. Cadences work with the hands and the feet, and you may be slower at some point because you're doing a grab. So the cadence then is something else. All right, enough about cadences. So in our paradas, you have a hand position, and there's 3 purposes behind the hand position. All right, so if we go to Parada 1, the first purpose, very simplistic, is that I'm here like this, but I can switch hands here, right? I can go from my right hand into my left hand. If I go back to 2, guess what? I can go from my right hand to my left hand. If I go to 3, from here, my right hand to my left hand. 4 from here, right hand to left hand. 5 from here. Now this is a little bit different, so I'm going to go from here this way, and I'm just going to bring this hand in. There's a couple of things you can do. I can bring it in as an augmentation, a support here, as I can do with 6 here like this. I can also, as Batigan would often do, is he could thrust here like this. Now this does not assume a stick. This assumes a blade, right? So I can thrust here with my blade. My blade immediately turns towards my opponent. I utilize this part of, oftentimes the Visayan handles were long. I can utilize this long handle with its kind of raven thing on the end as against my opponent if I'm in close range. Anyway, so 7 from here, right? This is my right hand, and from here I can augment here, and I can hit here like this and change the position of this. I'm sorry, 7 from here, right? Same thing, right? I've got this hand here, right? From here, I've got an augmentation which is coming next, or I can move it this way, or from this position, I can go and turn and thrust here. 8 from here, same thing, right hand, I can switch to the left hand, right hand, switch to the left hand, and so forth. So I won't go through all those because they're obvious. So the first set is that the hand is simply here, right? The second set is that the hand can switch. Why do we do that? It doesn't have really it doesn't seem to have any combative flavor to it, but what it is doing, all it is doing is presenting a concept. That concept is the switching of hands and the fact that a stick or weapon isn't always just thrust like this. Sometimes that stick is thrust like this. Sometimes it's thrust like this with double hand moves. If it's a stick, if it's a blade, it's a little harder. You don't want to do that. But so it's to show you that, yeah, we have a formal way, but there's variables within all these ways. That's why we show the different hand positions. The next part of the hands, this would be what, second or third? Next part of the hands is from here, take this position. It's called augmentation. You're used to using a rattan stick, very light. We call it our surrogate weapon just because it represents other weapons. However, in Kasag, you have multiple weapons, multiple weights, multiple distances. I mean, there's some basic sizes that like are standard, like 24 inches standard, 28 as you go up 36 and so forth. However, as you're striking with a light weapon or you have a heavy weapon, which is more difficult to control, augmentation from here is to rotate this hand around and push from this side with my strike here, right? So that's my strike here. So I'm from here, rather than just using this hand out, I'm pushing from this hand. Okay, number 2, from number 2, I'm pushing from here, right? I'm augmenting. Number 3, I'm basically pulling from here. Now number 3 is typically, we're doing it linear. Number 3 typically is an offline movement because of the power that has to be generated in order to cause damage to someone's hip. So when we go like this, typically this is a blade movement. From 4, we move out this way and our augmentation is here, like this, right? 5, our augmentation is like the other one, so I'll go here, like this. 6 from here, There's 6, it's my augmentation. Doesn't do much good to go back here with a long weapon, but right here with a long weapon is good. Number 7 position from here. So we've got this position, right, this odd hand behind. That comes into play when I've moved and I've placed my weapon somewhere into my opponent, and then I shove the tip of the weapon in. That's what that's for. That's why that position is there. But in augmentation, I'm going from here and I'm going into this way. I'm striking this way, typically. Okay? Number 8, just like 3, I'm going to push this way. Number 9, I'm going to push this way. 10 and 11 are the same as 8 and 9. And then 12 doesn't really have an augmentation because you've drawn another weapon. And so now you have a weapon. Typically it's going to be a shorter weapon. Okay, good. So we have a position with a hand, we have changing hands, and we have augmentation. All right, the next thing comes from a system called Winaki Paspas, or Winanakli. It basically means to push. You know, when Ken was having you do the Sinawali and he had you push with one, this, as you advance in Kasog, becomes an important skill that you learn. But the way you start out, the way you would teach it, the way you would think of it, is simply by extending the hand in a strike. So the way it works, and it's only because of the way we're made, when I'm going to come out with my right side, this hand is going to precede it. When I come out with my left side, this hand's going to be behind it. So if we go from Alisto, and go into our position here like this. Very simplistic move of pushing your hand this way and then delivering your strike. You notice I have this hand going behind a lot. It doesn't have to. Your hand can come here, your hand can come to the side. The reason I learned this is because as I'm striking here, I'm drawing a blade here from behind. So these BTB knives, behind the back knives, are pretty good for that skill. All right, so that's number 1, right? Number 2, from here, like this, right? I'm going to strike first and then draw this hand in. Number 3, push out and strike, back. Number 4, strike, push out, back. Number 5, push out, thrust, back. Number 6, push out, thrust, and back. Number 7, thrust and push out, and draw my 7 down to here, and back. Number 8, my 8, and push out. Number 9, from here, I'm going to push out and strike 9. Of course, 10 is going to be just like those. I'm going to strike and push out. From 11, I'm going to push out and strike. And number 12 is just number 12. Just does that. So what's happening here? Several ways to think about this. All right, so I've got my opponent in front of me, basically. I'm going to deliver a strike. I mean, this is just a drill scenario, is all it is. So I'm going to deliver a strike here. He's pretty close to me. I got a long weapon. I'm using a 30-inch weapon today. I've got a long weapon. How am I going to really get this going to him? I don't want to shorten my arc. I want to have a nice long arc because I want to destroy him, destroy that shoulder. So as he's here, he's coming into my space, maybe. It's a push, and then a hit. So I'm pushing him out to deliver a good strike. Why on earth would I do that? Why wouldn't I stay in close? All weapons, all of your weapons, every weapon have particular attributes. All right, in long-range Kasog, which we'll work with a lot today, the best strike I can do against my opponent is right here in this 1 inch. It's the tip. In long range, typically it's called tip to flesh. So what I'm doing is I'm hitting with this tip. Who can tell me why? Yes. Because what? Very good, yeah, right. Highest velocity. That's exactly it. So we give ourselves, best is about 4 inches in. I mean, best is at the tip, right? Then you can go 4 inches in, you still have you don't decrease much in strength. 6 inches in, you start decreasing in strength. But I'm not trying to hit him here medio, in the medium part of my weapon. That is because my weapon's attributes, I've hampered the attributes of my weapon by coming down the weapon to do my strike. Now, we do use medio, which we would use the term crusada, which just means to cross. We would use that medio range, but it's for, all it's for is for setting up a barrier, because we're moving in closer and we're trying to set up a barrier to sort of stop our opponent's weapon and then do something else. Okay, so that's what this is for. So if I just go through these movements, so I'm from here like this is push, or remember, it could be a grab. So now I'm going to take him, I'll try not to mess your shirt. So let's say I'm trying to take him off to this side and achieve a new angle. That's what that hand is doing. So it could be a grab. It could also be from here, it could be a slap, what we call dead hand slap. I could slap, then push, and strike my opponent. But it's all about my opponent. It's all about him. From number 2, from here, it's going to assume that I'm going to move this way and do my strike at this longer range. I had to shorten my arc a little bit there. And then I'm going to draw in against my opponent for a next movement. Now I showed you 5, you might push out this way. It doesn't matter where you push. It's wherever you push in the quadrant is okay. But here's your physical structure. This hand typically is going to move this way. It's natural, right? It moves this way. But it can grab, it can punch here, or whatever. It can even move to this side, but typically it's going to move here because we're always thinking about protecting ourselves at a dead zone area. So it might be that maybe he comes in with his hand, right? And there's my first move there, and there's my second move. So there's multiple ways to think about this hand movement. Now you'll see in a little bit why we kind of utilize that hand that way for another purpose. So let's go to Doble Kara. That is double stick. The language of that actually means double-faced. Double-faced. Doble Kara, sometimes we'll call it double baston. There's just other various terms for it. So now we have 2 sticks. Absolutely. You can't avoid the cut zone. You should avoid the cut zone as much as you can. But everything we do has behind it a particular principle. So if Ken there is slashing a weapon at me, I'm going to stick that thing in the cut zone, right? But let's say he slashed, I'm sorry, you're filming. Here. Oh, let's say it's Matt. Okay. Okay, so we have what's called a wave principle. So Matt's going to strike at me, but I'm going to wave back, and then this hand's going to come in through there. So it's going to come into whatever window is created so that I can either suppress my opponent here, right? Or I'm going to hit my opponent. Generally, it's going to be suppressed there. This is actually a throw from this point, where I'll go in and I'll throw him this way. But when he's going to strike at me, I don't want to stick this hand out here like this because I make a target for him. Right? So we don't want targets. We want to win. Right? Okay. Any other thoughts? And ask any question except for advanced calculus questions. Any question.
So you mentioned briefly about the Crusada in that medial range. So as you're, pushing that hand out and you're kind of using that as a, push, would it be, if you're trying to do something where it's striking from this side, would you put that hand in front at the medial range or behind over here, like directly, be a little bit closer, yes?
Yeah, like so, well, yeah, right. You have 2 ranges going on.
To gain that range again, absolutely,
Yeah. So you have 2. He's asking about the ranges and the size of the stick and so forth. So there's always a fluidity of ranges. We say that we're always seeking what we call home. I always want to go home. And home for us is long range. I always want to go out to the long range from my opponent, not because I'm trying to get away from my opponent, but because I'm trying to devastate my opponent immediately. So when you have a weapon of a certain length, whatever length, these are 24s, you are trying to achieve the highest aspect of the attributes of my weapon. So I want to have, so a long arc achieves a very high aspect. mass, speed goes, and you know what happens with mass, right? Mass increases. And when I strike my opponent, I've seen it before, but I don't know how much pressure is there. But it's tremendous pressure. When I do the hit. If I have a bladed weapon, it is not sinking into my opponent, but it's slicing with a tip against my opponent. All right. So that hand could get me range from a long range, but I'm not always long range, right? We're not just a long range system. Maybe like I did with Ken, I'm going to grab that at that point, or I'm going to suppress my opponent's weapon hand. If he's a right-handed weapon and he's moved to this side, I can use this hand to suppress that. When I suppress that, generally it's going to suppress the left hand too. So I'm concerned about these quadrants, these windows as we call them, that where nasties can come through the windows, and we have to deal with those nasty things. Okay, so if we stand and do our Doble Kara. When you do the paradas, as I said, there's a mechanical feeling to it. It's like, these are just positions, but they aren't, of course. They're teaching sort of various principles, like the hand. So if I have my double weapons like this, my first position is going to be here. In this case, I'm always thinking my right hand dominant, right? Typically, this is a right hand dominant system. And if you're left-handed, we let you be left-handed, right? But we make you understand how the two things work together. So typically we call this little brother and this big brother, because this is doing all the big fighting. This one's kind of helping out a lot. However, little brother oftentimes is more deadly than this one. Okay, so in our first position, here. Right, now I've got this stick like this. It doesn't matter if it's on the outside or the inside. If it's on the outside, it's easier to bring this into play, right? My second position over to this side is going to be here. So you notice a little bit change. You see some people will do this, and that's good too. But I typically do this one here. My third one is here, with this weapon on top. My fourth one is here. My fifth one is here. My sixth one is here. My seventh one is here. My eighth one is here. My ninth one is here. And 10, and 11. And now 12 is a little bit different. 12 is here. Right, because this one is going to get in closer. I have to use a puño. This is here. But you notice when I do 6 here, it's about here. When I do 12 here, it's like this. So this is a drawn-in position, because when I'm getting close into my opponent, let's say that I beat up Matt again. Matt hits me from here like this, right? Like this, kind of coming in through here. I'm hitting him double. It reminds you of the bullfighters, right? It's been called that, actually. There's a lot more going on with 12 than a double hit. But that's a good way to start to think of how 12 works. One is a long weapon, 24-inch in this case. The other one is a short weapon, so I've got to make both of them count for me. You sometimes will see 12 like this. Let's say you move like this, I hit through here and then move this in. Or I hit through here and then I step in with this. Or I step in around this way. Or I step in this way and hit. There's so many variables that we couldn't do them all. Okay, so you got those positions. Now you say, well, okay, so how do we hit from these positions if we're hitting mainly with the right hand? Well, we have our system of Anino Payaagi, which is basically means shadow method. So it's a shadow method. And I think some of you have done this method. But what happens is one weapon follows. So when we go back to our first position, and go ahead and go back. Okay, now remember my main striking, actually I'm not even going to strike with the one that's back. I'm going to strike this way with my main one, but this is its shadow, right? It moves there. So there's two ways to cut. One is to end cut back, or to end cut, that means you stop at the end of where the cut would end, or the slash move that comes back up. Doesn't matter when we do this. All right, so that's one, right? So here's one. So I hit just like I normally would, and this one kind of is secretly moving this way. So why are we doing that? When you go Doble Kara, at least in our system, there is not a lot of crossing. It is called Abierto. It's an open system, Abierto Estilo. We'll do a lot of open system stuff. So the weapons don't cross like this. The weapons are oftentimes like this, coming what's called bahin, side to side, against my opponent. So if we go to number 2, right? Go to 2, like this. This one is still doing my main strike, and I'm sorry, yeah, this one is just following along. It's really not doing much of anything. If I'm going right-handed, if I go bahin, which is switching side to side, which is the best way with these particular moves, this one then becomes Big Brother. So I know that sounds weird, but I'll show you how that works. So if I'm here like this, right, and this one is drawn out, and this one follows like this, and I come back up to this side, right, and this one is following here, and this one is doing the strike now. Come to my right side, this one is doing the strike, and this one is following, but it's not following like this, right? It's just following on the inside. It's covering the zones of possible attack. So as I'm moving this way, I'm not moving everything that way. I'm moving this at this following method because it is always concerned with this open zone. All right, if I go from here and I strike from 4, I'm striking this way, right? So this one's doing the main hit, and this one's just kind of following along. When I get to 5 from here, I guess 5's a little boring. 5's kind of the same. 5 striking through there, right? 6 is pretty much the same through 6. When I get to 7, though, it's no more of this. My 7 is here. My 8 is here. My 9 is here. My 10 is here. My 11 is here. And my 12 is still 12. Okay. So if we just did the strikes without the paradas, again, these parada positions are just this formal idea. So I'm here like this, right? And if I'll be on the inside, and I can strike, or I can strike this way and have this as my guard here. But if we just do the strikes, let's do V nalakang, V stepping, forward and back, right? So it's 1 step forward, 1 step back. So if we go from here, let's go back to what we call Andam. Andam is just a prepared position. It's usually just the parada position. So I'm going to go through each strike. So from here, I'm going to come forward, and I'm going to strike 1. I'm going to come back up, and 2, and up, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8. So it's following again. And 9, it's following. And 10, and 11, and 12. All right. So those are the strikes, right? But in Anino, Payaagi, there is also all the parries. There is also all the blocks. So we have Sagang Sagawas, we have Alakuntra that works in this very similar way. I think we'll get there today, but I'll just, so you kind of have this in your thinking, I'll use Matt again, I'll give you a sense of how this works. So you know, my role with striking is from here. My role with parrying is a little bit different, but it sort of moves along the same principle. So when Matt's going to strike in at me, this is what we would call medium long range, or long medium range. I've got to use one of my weapons to be something that changes his, or with Sagang Sagawas, so I'm going to do something as far as deflecting. This is deflecting, and this is hitting. So if he goes 1, again, right? 1, this is my hit against here. Now he's going to come 2. It's taking the end, and this is taking the hand. 3, this is taking through here. It's deflecting down. This is taking the hand. 4, this is here and here. 5, here and here. 6, here, 7, 8, 9, and 10, yeah, that 10, yeah, 11, and 12. So when he does 12, I'm always going to take the long weapon, 12. Okay, thank you. So what you've got is, because it's long, medium range, you've got what we call 2 cadence movement, the 1 and the 2, right? If I had just 1 cadence in my movement, it would be deflection and hit. 3 cadence comes at medium and then close range 2. That would be maybe a barrier, a trap, and then a hit. So there's a 3 cadence to it. Now the cadences are not 1, 2, 3. It's 1, 2, 3. It's very fast. They all flow in together. But when you're doing this double stick movement, you want to have the sense of moving your weapons without tying your weapons up with each other. You know, Sinawali is wonderful. I like to do it. There's like hundreds of these different Sinawali patterns. But typically when we train, it sometimes becomes like a game. And we miss what's happening. If we go into a combative situation, it's not that it doesn't work, but you don't have the power moving for you that you would with an open style. So with open style, where I'm coming from side to side with lots of power, I wouldn't have as much, because there's my arc here, for example, is a low arc. It's not a high arc. A high arc is stronger than a low arc. Anyway, all that stuff. All right. So that is moving with our parada, because we're still on paradas, our position and then how this moves. Our position and how these move. That make sense? Okay. Any questions about that? Ken's getting it down here, so if you'll go through it. And typically we'll, in the regular club, we'll do this also with a cadence. We have used big congas, and it's fun. All right. So the next thing is going to be baston ug palillo, which is cane and stick is actually the actual language of that. It's long and short. That's all it is, long and short. Here's the basic rule, and I don't know how many short weapons you have here today, but the basic rule is this. If I have a 24-inch weapon, my shorter weapon, as a palillo, a stick, is going to be 10 inches below it. So it's going to be a 14. Like I have a 30-inch weapon over there, so my palillo is 20 inches. And that's all that is. It's just kind of a general rule for that. Or I have my barong, my bolo, and then I have my dagger, my 12-inch dagger. It's not as matched up with daggers and bolos, but it's still there. It's still the idea. You're just not using 2 weapons that are of the same length, basically the same content together. These are weapons that are different. Oftentimes, the littler one is lighter, and it does a lot different things than the big one. You know, it's a little brother, so it's the hit and run guy, hit and hide, right? That's what our second weapon does a lot of times. So if we want to go to that, I can show you how that works with your paradas. If you have short sticks, I'll tell you what, we can do it with long sticks. We'll do it with long sticks. We'll do the same principle, right? Okay, so everybody up. So this, oddly, is what is called whack and slash. So one weapon sort of is a whacker, and the other one is a slasher. So if I go back into my position number 1, right? My main powerful weapon is this one. This one here is not going to have the power. Oh yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
So we get a reference of that.
Okay. So this littler one here, like this, is going to go out first. You recognize this from where my hand goes out first? It's the same principle. So this is my position here. This is going to whack, and this is going to slash right there. Okay? Go back to the other side from here. right? This is going to slash, and this is going to whack. That's a strange way to call it, but that's basically what it is. From number 3, this whacks and this slashes. From 4, it slashes and whacks. From 5, it whacks and thrusts. From 6, it whacks and thrusts. From 7, it thrusts and whacks. From 8, it slashes and whacks. From 9, it whacks and slashes. You can guess what happens on 10. It slashes and whacks. 11, whacks and slashes. And number 12, we might as well just hold on to this thing, right? Number 12 is just number 12. That's a shorter weapon now, so we get the sense of what the dagger does with this. All right. So this long and short method is very ingrained in our system. I know you may not have seen it much, but I think you will probably in the future. So if I have Matt here again, so let's say that I just do what I just did as far as you have, like, say, same size. Let's say that we're here like this, right? Remember, this side is whacking first. Okay. So if he's got this, it could be anything. It could be a hit, it could be a thrust, or whatever. So I've got this position, and this is going to whack this guy, right? Whack, and then I achieve my long-range movements from here. If he comes in from the other side, I'm going to utilize my long-range movement, and then there's my whack, or whatever. So I'm just hitting him after I let this do its power. So you have this flow between long range, long medium range going on because you have a smaller weapon. That's why. Now let's say I wanted to stay a little bit closer, and he came in with that number 1. So I took it. Let's say I take it like I did the shadow method, right? So let's say that he comes in, and I take and I whack him through here like this, and then this is going to dip in through here. Now what did I do? I'd open a big window for that, right? So if he comes in with that side, then I'm going to swip over to this side and get away from it. Or if pow here, I'm going to utilize this weapon in a different way, right? So it just depends if I go to this side or that side. If I go to this side and I do a trap, I'm probably, traps are rare, but I probably want to disarm him, or actually all I want to do is tie him up. So if I go to this side, hit through here, all I want to do is get this opening here so I can smack him, or smack this, or whatever. Okay? So that's kind of how that comes into play. And you can see a wide range of uses once you get this shorter weapon. So this is a little bit different. Thank you, man. Salamat. So this is a little bit different than what we're going to do next, which is our baston ugdaga. Whack, so to speak, is the location of the target. So the target's close, you take out whatever's there at the target. I mean, since it's a stick and you're hitting against flesh and bone, you don't have to worry about hitting center mass, so to speak. You just destroy whatever is there in that range. You might also, I'm showing you as a whack, but it might be something else too. It might be a suppression move. I might be moving this out to lock a hit in and then dropping back so I can do this hit. Depends on my timing. It might be a capturing move, what we call vine. It might be a vine where, let's say if I have you again. Let's say I think, oh no, he doesn't need that lung, so I'm going to thrust this into the lung, right? That's going to be if it's a knife anyway, that's where that's going to go. Now I'm still dealing with this, but you see this is covered. This area is covered, so I'm not going like this, right? I'm going like this. So he comes in with that side, I've still got this, all this stuff going for me. And then I choose my targets because there's plenty of them. Right? So, okay, any other, yes?
So you kind of answered my question a little bit there. I was thinking about that more as a different kind of weapon. You said whack, like it's not like a lob tick. It's not following through with that. It's
We
kind of
tick.
coming back.
Right.
Yes, kind of like almost like a trenching. Yes.
Right.
So you can use it to push But as far as like it being a long weapon and carrying an arc, you want to more pull back.
Right,
Yes?
right.
Okay.
So the reason is that this does not have a lot of slashing through power, right? I don't even, Kasag doesn't have much to do with their blades cutting unless they're in very close. You know, we have our, what Combative Distances called the secret cut. It really wasn't. People number it actually. Where I'm going to hit into the subclavian artery, come across the neck this way, and then hit into the other subclavian artery. I mean, and that's in an ideal world, I guess. But, right, this typically performs what they would call Wheatic movements. Now, you tend to think of Wheatic as these things. Wheatic is any movement that goes in and out. That's all it is. So as I whack with this, I'm just getting it out of the way for this one. So it's a replacement. I whack and I replace it with this. And now this one, I've got a nice long arc so I can cause a lot of damage on my opponent. So that's why that is there. If I push him, if he's in close, I push him away, I'm pushing him away because I'm going to devastate with this long movement here. So I could poke with this. You know, pokes with sticks are okay, but they don't have a whole lot of strength. But I could also use the puño with this. So I can hit the puño. Now, what oftentimes you don't see is that I can work it this way too. So I can work this in my left hand and this be in my right hand. Now, if you're right-handed, you have a little more coordination, right, with this right hand. So it works the same way though. Whether I'm right-handed or left-handed and I've got this wherever it is, it's still going to do its job and this is going to do its job. Make sense? Okay, good. Okay, so does everybody have a dagger? Oh, thank you. Now, Angie is the head student, right? You told me she was. Okay. So, Angie, you don't need a dagger. Yeah, no, you don't want that.
I have a longer one.
You don't want that. You don't want that either.
Can I relieve you of one of those?
Yeah, no, it's okay. That is because this is yours. I didn't bring one for everybody, I'm sorry. But this is Angie's. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so typically the Kasag dagger. So you have two descriptions. One is a balara. A balara is, well, the short little things, right? The short things. Kasag typically has a bara, which is a dagger. So the difference is this. It's about 12 inches or so of weapon. So the difference is, and it's associated more with my longer weapon for its length. Double-sided, doesn't have to be. I mean, we're just telling you some of the basics, right? Double-sided, most of my work is done at the tip. Just like on my other weapon, most of the work is done at the tip. I'm not trying to run my opponent through. Does anybody know what I'm trying to do with a dagger? Goodness. Huh?
Are you trying to
Nope.
make little cuts?
No cuts. What? Yeah, no. Okay, Ken.
Okay. It's to start to induce shock.
Right.
Many pierces, not very deep, to induce shock into the body.
Right. I want to induce shock mostly. Now, to hit a vital organ is about 4 inches approximately, if you know where the organ is, right? It's about 4 inches in to hit a vital organ. So 4 inches on a dagger like this is what, like that. I mean, that can be achieved, and it would be achieved if I'm trying to hit like the subclavian arteries or something like that. But if I try to hit into the neck, it's not that far in, right? I don't remember what the centimeters are, but anyway, it's not that far in. I can still hit that artery if I need to hit that artery. One thing that I know you know already, but this, all martial arts, right, at the core, are developed for what purpose? You know? Yes, sir.
Self-defense.
Self-defense. Yeah, that's true. What is oftentimes the end result in self-defense?
Maiming or killing.
Yes, right. And this art is because it's weapons art. You have to think about that. Weapons arts, maiming and killing are sort of the primary heart of the art. Now, I might maim, and if I'm being moral and my opponent can no longer do anything, then that's it. You know, my opponent, maybe I took out his mobility, or maybe the fang and he didn't have any other weapons. I don't know what the scenario could be. But I'm not going to go that next step. I don't want to kill the opponent in most circumstances, right? So when we're doing these Kali arts, these are based on the idea that I don't just have one opponent, that it's not just a linear fight, that I have several opponents that I'm trying to deal with. So if there's uncertainty in the condition of my opponent, probably you're going to kill that opponent. Now that sounds odd in our time period because we don't see many of these multiple attacks. But I think it's important for us to know. And that's why in many of your drills, you will be doing a drill this way, but you're already spanning with your peripheral vision to the next direction, right? You're already looking to the next direction before you move there. You're scanning it. What's in this, what's coming from here, and so forth. So the elements of that is perhaps you know that there are multiple opponents. All right, and so you want to try to, as best as possible, be in control of the angles of these opponents. Where are they? Changing your angle, they're going to have to change an angle. You can actually manipulate people in that sense. When I say manipulate them, I mean that if they're after you, you can move a certain way, and they're going to, if they want you, they're going to have to move a certain way too. Okay, so we have this warcraft approach to the way we train now. And we say, well, it's not the same today. We don't have the same things today. But the fact is, we sort of do have the same things today. Did you just hear the news about Vegas? Yeah. How many people? 2 people were murdered. And I don't know how many were hit. And what did the guy have as his weapon? A knife. Yeah, he had a kitchen knife. Actually, I'm sure it was a meat knife or something, but there it is. And it's all over the place. Most of the attacks are not done with, or the killings are not done with guns. They are done with something else. It could be any variety of thing that is used in those attacks. Justin, you probably know tons about that, seeing people being killed and maimed or whatever with a weapon that you would say, so they used that weapon, huh? That kind of thing. So this is why I see that this warcraft mentality is important to us. Right, we're not going to be out in the jungles. We're not going to be like Leo Heron. I don't know if you know him, but during World War II, he was in guerrilla warfare. His weapon was a sword, just one sword against the Japanese. Put a bounty out on his head, in fact. And so the story is, now I've spoken with him directly. He's dead now. But so I never asked him about this. But the story is that there was a bounty on him. And that he would sometimes, if it was an officer, show himself and show his weapon. And the officer with his sword, huge mistake, would come to fight him. And of course, he'd kill them. Obviously, he won because he just recently died. Old age. So the point is, I guess, there is a warcraft mentality that we want to recognize. We want to realize that this craft is about damaging a human being. So we want to make sure we train our thinking mentally to know that. And that seems like, oh yeah, sure, if I'm attacked, I'm going to hurt this guy. But you'd be surprised how many times your own empathic feelings for someone else comes into play, and you can't do it. Especially, you find this a lot with people that have a gun and they can't shoot that person. So there's so much to warcraft mentality that you want to develop, and then put it into this and put it into perspective to your regular. All right, so stick and dagger, follows, remember this is the root, it follows the same ideas we've already been doing. So I typically am going to start with the dagger in my left hand and the stick, or baston actually. So there's a distinction between stick and baston. So I'll take my baston here, and so I'm going, my positions, my parada positions are just like what we were doing with the double stick. So in my parada position, I'm going to come back to here. So my blade is just going back. So it's a little bit different over here because my blade is still forward. I'm not going back like this. Number 3 is here. Number 4 is here. Number 5 is here. You notice I'm going to connect these. I'm holding pressure against my weapon, right? This is my number 5 position. My number 6 position is here. I'm still holding pressure against it. I'm not letting loose of the weapon. I'm moving it like this, and there's still pressure. Now the pressure's on the outside. I'm going to just move this down like this. That's number 8. I'm going to move it over like this. Number 9. Number 10. Number 11. And now here, number 12, have a lot more sense to it, right? Number 12. All right, so when we go through these movements, again, the same sort of thing that I've shown you already. So we go back into Parada 1, right? This is going to come out first. But this stab now is going to come this way. So you see this configuration in my hand. So I'm not trying to hit this way. I'm hitting this way. Right. Basically, my target is just high. It could be the subclavian artery. This is an awkward position. But you'll see, as you go through the training, you'll see how this comes into play in a lot of different ways. All right? So let's do this again. So I'm back. I thrust. With me, I bring this all the way behind my back and deliver my strike. Okay, so let's go back. Alisto. Andam. Andam just means prepare. And thrust. And strike. Good. Again, number 1. Andam. Thrust and strike. And back. Number 2, going back to 2. Remember, this is going to be strike and thrust. So I'm going to go forward, I'm going to strike, and now my thrust is just coming right in like this. So my knuckles are up like that, and it's a good structure for a hit. Okay, let's do this again. Number 2, from here, I'm going to strike and thrust. Okay, back for 3. For 3, I'm going to thrust, and I typically thrust low, and then strike, and I'm bringing it behind my back again. You don't have to. And then back up. 3 again. From here, thrust, strike. Okay. For 4, back through here, I'm going to strike and thrust. Okay, again, number 4, I'm going to strike and thrust. Okay. Now, when we do number 4 fast, you know that your wrist has this spin in it. If we're really kind of being Delecki, which means kind of pretty but has no use, his body cuts out. So we spin like this, right? Spin like this. We never do this in the cut zone. If we spin like that, we're spinning back here like this. All the spin is for is a deflection. It's to, it's to give movement that the opponent sees, doesn't know where it's coming from. So the theory goes. All right? All right, so go from 4 again, from here. And if I come through and I strike 4 and 5. See, so you can do it in there too. All right. Back for 5 from here. Thrust and 5. Back again. Thrust and 5. All right. Back for 6. Thrust and 6. And back. Thrust and 6. Okay. Back to here. From here, 7 and thrust. All right, again, 7 and thrust, or thrust. Actually, this is a stronger way, as I mentioned. Okay, so you notice that it's only because I'm doing the numerata that when I deliver this, I deliver 7 and I strike through here, this comes down to this side. There's lots of different ways it can go. If I go 7 from here, I can thrust this way. Right? I go 7 from here, I can thrust down. I can even put it in as a hit down and thrust. So there's a lot going on there. But the basic move is 7 and dropping down to here because it's going to come to 8. All right, so 8, slash, and thrust. 8, slash, and thrust. All right, 9, thrust and slash. 9, thrust and slash. 10, slash and thrust. 10, slash and thrust. 11, thrust and slash. 11, thrust and slash. And 12 is just 12. 12. That's my hit there. So that skip jump is actually to get momentum for my thrust. That's all it is. It's a momentum for my thrust. I don't anticipate that this is going to do a lot if I'm actually doing it like this. If I'm actually hitting with both weapons like that, I'm going to need some strength in that. But all it is a little principle to teach you how you can gain a closer distance because you have now a shorter weapon and you want to employ it. I'd rather hit my opponent with the tip of this to try to put him into shock than with the tip of this. Okay?
Would you rather hit him with the knife, sticking him?
I'd rather. I mean, if I'm doing this.
Oh, yes.
But if I'm back far enough, I'd rather hit him with this than my knife. Okay? All right. So, moving forward in baston e daga or baston e bara, we want to combine these movements now. You can do it with any of the drills, but we want to combine these movements. So what you have is this. So when I'm combining them for my hits, I'm starting here, right? I'm going to thrust and hit here. I'm going to do my hit through there, and I'm going to thrust here, but I'm going to thrust here now and do my hit there and thrust and thrust. So what you've got, that's kind of the next step, you've got thrust, slash, thrust, thrust, slash. Okay? So if, I'll just face this way and we can all do it together. So from Alisto, going back to Andam, just go very slow through this. I'm going to come forward and there is my thrust, my slash, my slash, my thrust, my thrust, my slash, my slash, my thrust, my thrust, my thrust for 5, right? I'm going to come back around, it's kind of like a circle thing, and I'm going to thrust out high and thrust. Then do 7, I'm going to drop and thrust, 8, thrust, hit, 9, right? I'm getting kind of closer, sorry. Number 10, and thrust, and then thrust again, 11, and then 12.
Hey, right to the camera.
Right to the camera. So that's just doing it linear. I mean, we do a lot of things linear, but we also do upat puntos, which is the 4 directions. So you can do any of these drills. And I think I saw it in one of the things that Ken showed me, that you were doing parada to the 4 points, which is good. So you can utilize this that way too. So if I'm here like this, right, and I've got this position, and I thrust, and I strike, and then I strike, and thrust, and then I'm thrusting here, right? And I strike, and then I strike, and thrust, and I thrust, and I strike. So I can take that to the 4 points. Okay? All right, very good. Just so you see that. Now, why this is the same reason to the other things. This is just a formal structure to give you uses of the weapon. Uses of the weapon are high thrust and low thrust, and that's basically it from this initial understanding. So, for example, if I have Matt So we got this, sometimes these positions feel awkward, right? So maybe Matt hits in at me through like a one, right? He hits into me this way, right? This is actually this, right? So this is my thrust here, right? Come around through here, gonna watch that, thrust here, if he turns. So these are the upper thrusts. I might have been tied up in or wherever my weapon was. If I drew my weapon from here, maybe I'm gonna go low. You just never know where your weapon comes from. My weapon comes from back here. If I draw it, it's gonna have, it's not gonna be immediately available, but I'm hiding it. That's why it's back here. I don't want them to know that I have it, right? If you see some of the styles, they'll go different saludo things, and then they'll put their hand. We put our hand behind, but we don't show that we have no weapon. A lot of them do, So they'll show that they have no weapon in this hand, and then they go back because the weapon is often kept back there. Thank you. All right, so we won't drill through that because it's. Well, in my thinking, first it's on video, and also it's an obvious drill that you're thrusting, striking, thrust, strike, thrust. That's all it is. You're just thrusting and striking and thrusting and striking. But every movement has a particular quality to it that informs a practitioner of how to move. So the best thing, if you're teaching somebody, you can never assume that they know the mechanics of these movements. You can never assume that. So you teach these, and then the stuff like I did with Matt a little bit ago, then you apply it later on for teaching. All right, so that is basically parada. That's our parada. I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate. It's fortunate, I should say. There's a lot of YouTube things out there about all kinds of different cool drills. And I like them too. In fact, we have about 10 that we do, which came to us through a fellow by the name of Nate Defensor. And they're along that same line. They come from other systems, and they're good things. We might utilize them a little bit differently sometimes because we're trying to find combative qualities in those things, trying to break it apart, and we do what we call the story of this or the story of that. So when I talk about the numerata, I'll talk about the story of one, the story of number one, and then what do you do with this angle? Where's it going? What's the whole thing about whatever the story of that number is? And then, of course, the story of two and so forth. Or if we're doing like something that is a sombrada, taking the first move and saying, what is the story of this? What is happening here? How does it really come about? The purpose of that is that so we keep it forefront in our thinking that anything that we do as a drill can have a sort of fun aspect to it or a game aspect to it. We can't get past that because we're not going to kill each other. That's a good way to lose a training partner. So we can't get past that idea, but we do want to keep ourselves mentally thinking about how all of these things work. And I guess I just say that because there's some real fancy things that people can look at and do. And I say, yeah, go ahead. I mean, have fun with all this stuff. There's some good stuff, but then try to look at the core of it too, and see and separate drill from combat, because although the nature of it is there, in the drill sense, it's not there. So we'll do some drills, but I wanted to talk just a little bit more before we go on about stick and dagger. So I showed you that when you're first learning, you're learning a particular move here. It even has an odd feel to it, right? Because I'm stepping forward here and I'm striking with this. But that's not the only way we do it. We have what's called bahin. That's side to side. That's where I'm going to strike here and just shift and thrust here. or I'm going to strike here and shift and thrust. And all it is thrust from the left side, strikes from the right side and the left side. And that's basically all it is. And so what we do is we're going to deal with the story of one, for example, the angle one and the thrust that comes to us. We'll deal with that in a variety of ways from a variety of distances, because we want to keep ourselves aware of the fact that if someone's going to thrust a knife at me, then probably I'm within a distance to be hit by that knife. And how do I deal with that? Okay, so I just wanted to point that out, that we have side to side. It's called bahin bahin, and we use that term bahin bahin for a lot of things, because we have the Abierto style, which is basically side to side. And I think you do this, right? Can you do? Yeah, side to side. And when you're parrying, my parry of my opponent's right hand is with my left hand, that type of thing. So I've got this movement, or I've got from side to side this way, where I'll move like that. Or I'll stop my opponent here with this weapon, and be hitting with this weapon on the inside. You know, just things like that. That's called bahin bahin. It's the abierto estilo. It's the open style. So what you're trying to achieve basically is not crossing your weaponry. And you do see this a lot. You see these kind of movements, which are kind of fun. These are good. These work really well. Good close-in movement. We do them too. Maestro Nate taught us a bunch of those things, so we play with those too. But the basic aspect of having long and short is that you have to ask, what are the attributes of my weapon, and how can I best use that weaponry? So I showed you side to side. I showed you from moving from this side. This is really open style too, because I'm moving from side to side. When I strike, I'm letting this one open up and strike from there. So I'm not striking and bringing this back here, so that this area, this window here is left open. But when we do this with bahin, we're doing bahin where we'll step here like this, and then we'll simply shift this way, right? So two and bahin. All it is a shift on each movement. Then I'll shift this way, and then I'll shift this way, right? And I'll strike 4 and shift, and 5 and shift, 6 and shift, and 7 and shift, and so forth, 8 shift. So it's really like what I was showing you, side to side movement when I'm going linear, or when I'm going side to side this way. Now, the reason we do that is because later on, you learn a particular drill that has this movement in it, where I'm a little bit closer to my opponent. It's sort of more medium range, medium close range, where I have to defend. I have to defend from one position here on the inside, and there's a knife coming at me here. So I have to defend this position here, and then take this knife out here that's coming in at me. If we get time, we'll do some of that. But as we call it itas puntos, that means tip down, and I can't remember the word for up, but itas, point up. So point up, point down. So we've got this configuration like this. I know that doesn't mean anything as you're listening to me and thinking about what is he talking about. But that is simply to say that our espada e daga part of the art is a higher aspect of the art that you will learn. You know, you'll learn how to utilize those two things. But it's not just espada y daga. It's that I'm going to use my weapon in this hand, and this hand's going to be free. Or I'm going to use my weapon in this hand, and this one's going to be free. So if I'm doing the one like where let's say we're in here, and I push this way and grab and hit this way, or I grab this way and to get my target. It's like it's like the prison stab thing. Right? Machine. Yeah, the sewing machine thing. When you look at all these drills like you had in the paradas, and you start applying them in this what they call age movement, it's flow movement is what we're doing. You start finding that these principles become very fluid principles, and you can utilize them in a variety of ways. Okay, so I said we were going to do upat puntos. All that is the 4 directions. So we have this, these traditional sort of, I call them traditional, I guess they're not. These drills come to us from, primarily from the Villebrel system. So I don't know if you know about Villebrel. He was well known in the 30s as a full contact fighter of this art. Supposedly he killed his last opponent and they stopped the games. I don't know. But one of Batikan's teachers actually worked with him to go into the arena. And so he was the primary teacher of Batikan, our teacher, in most of what we do. So we reflect him mostly. Also, his Batikan, although he's hard to understand because it's like broken English, it's Hawaiian English. You have to really listen to it. But his main language was English. So Villebrel, whose main language I think was Cebuano, he had the best English of all the teachers that Batikan worked with. So, and that could have included his father. But, so our Villebrel influence is very strong. So these 4 points, these upat, 4 puntos, 4 points, we distinguish from the 8 directions. There's still points, but the 8 directions are based on north, south, east, west, and the in-betweens. That's what it is. So when you see that, you see forward movement, you see movement behind, so it's a 360. You see movement at 90 degrees, and then 360, and then these are basically 45 shifts, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'll show you that. Okay, so I want to go to the 4 points, and let's just do the simple drill of cinco terro to the 4 points, all right? So we're making right-hand turns until we get to 5, and then we're making left-hand turns at 90 degrees until we get back to 5. All right? So if we go from Alisto, if you haven't done this before, just go slow with it. We start out with Andam, prepare. Going forward and striking 1, back, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5. Back up. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5. And that ends that drill. Okay. So here's what's going on, right? We're moving to these points. We are rotating as we're going to these different points, but not just to rotate. What's happening is there's a peripheral vision training within this. So as I'm striking 1 here, my peripheral vision is here. So I strike 1 here. As I'm moving to strike 2, I am progressively increasing my peripheral vision to the next point. So I'm scanning this area. So I'm from here and I'm scanning through this area. So I get this new peripheral vision here and so forth. So that's part of what I'm trying to train myself to do, is to look before I move, so to speak. So I'm looking and then rotating, looking and rotating. If you're right-handed, it's easier to go to the right, so that's why we go back to the left and we make a circle. So I call it clockwise, counterclockwise. So when we do the strike, the typical genre of, we think long range generally, the typical genre of that is it's an aggressive move. We think of that as aggressive, although we often step back when we strike. But in this case, aggressive, we step forward. When we defend, we typically step back. So, so you got cinco terros, and you're going to have, well, basically 3 things that go in the standard defense and strike. So you've got your cinco terros, then you've got Sagang Sagawas, where you're seeing the strike come at you and you're parrying it. Good way to work with this is put 1 person in the middle and have 4 around them at those points, and they deliver the attacks that we're talking about. So you defend those attacks. The other way is ala contra, where you defend the ala contra. Okay. So, so when we're doing these 5-point movements, the variables that can be added into them are multiple. And I don't know if you've done it with the beat, but with the beat, have you done it with the beat? Okay, so with the beat, it has a real dance quality to it. I don't know for sure, but this might relate back to the way they hid the art from the Spanish within these dances. And these movements that we're doing may come from those dances. I simply don't know. Now, Don Mendoza in Hawaii, his wife Cora, who teaches Filipino dancing, Hawaiian dancing, Spanish. I've never asked her that question, but she probably says, yeah, we've got that. And I've seen these dances, and it seems similar. Anyway, so you're learning to dance, I guess, while you're learning these moves. But the aspect of it that is combative is the peripheral vision, the being able to rotate. The step, as you can see, is really only V, Nalakang, Avante. That's all you're doing is V, Nalakang, Avante. But when you're doing and you're stepping one, that's your first part of your V, right? But when you step two, it's just extended out this way. So now you've got this big V, Nalakang movement, right? And you're stepping three and so forth. But that's all the step is V, Nalakang. Now, if you added a variable in it, such as strike, parry, strike, you're doing Usa Kalakang, one step. Okay, so I think it was unfamiliar to some people here a little bit, but let's do that one once more. So we're doing cinco terros, and we're doing upat puntos to the 4 points, so it's clockwise, counterclockwise. And then we'll come back and we'll do Sagung, Sagawas. When we do alakuntra, it just has a different configuration, but it's just like doing the strikes, right? Except you're stepping back. Parries against those 5 moves. A couple things happen. We still have to use our peripheral vision when we're moving. So that means I'm striking and my head's here before my movement. So it's kind of like I'm striking, I'm done with that. I'm moving to this guy, so forth. So when we do Sagang Sagawas, we're just going to step back in V Nalakang. So it's going to be V Nalakang Literada. The other V Nalakang Avante. That's all it is. So from Alisto, there's no Andam in this one because you're not preparing for a hit. You have the hit coming in here, and you're stepping back, and you're hitting against your opponent's hand here. 1. You're dropping back from this direction. 2. Dropping back. 3. Dropping back 4, and dropping back 5. So you've just done 5. Here comes 1 again. You're dropping back against 1. Here comes 2, dropping back and parrying. And here's 3, and here's 4, and here's 5. Alisto. All right, so that's basically it. Now if you combine, let's just look at alakuntra. Alakuntra is just like doing the strike. So if we're here and we're doing alakuntra, we're stepping back and there's 1. Now, when we do it this way, when we stop at this point, it is assuming something. It is assuming a long, medium, actually more like a medium range block stop. So I'm going 1, right? Coming to this side, I'm going 2. Coming to this side, I'm going 3. To this side, I'm going 4. To this side, I'm going 5. Right? That's against. Here comes 1 again. I'm stepping up and I'm going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Listo. All right. So just some particular things as I saw as I was turning. Whether you're doing your strike, is this another aspect of the drill, or you're doing your parry? Everything, it's like a gun, right, doctor? You have to have the gun loaded in order for it to shoot. And this is the same way. So I'm not blocking 1 here and blocking 2 here. I'm blocking 1 here, I'm blocking 2 here. The drill assumes that you certainly have time to move in this fashion. And the load is from the parada. So if I'm striking 1, I'm loaded. That's my parada position. I'm loaded. And even though there's some dynamics here, so I'll drop this back and deliver 1 like this, and I come back to 2, coming back to 2 is just the load, right? Batagan would say, no, there's a hidden cut right there. Anyway, so there is, but we still have to load that up for the next movement. So what's happening when we're striking and loading, or defending and loading, excuse me, is that we're going in and out of the cut zone, right? I have to be in the cut zone to cut. I don't want to get cut, so I have to be out of the cut zone when I'm loading, right? I have to put a new clip in. So I've hit through here. My load is drawing out of the cut zone now. So I'm coming out. I'm moving this target that my opponent wants to get out of the cut zone, but then I'm coming back into the cut zone. Make sense? So when you do these drills, whether it's a defense or a strike, try to move with the paradas in mind. So if I'm defending, for example, I'm defending number one. So I can defend number one from here, but I can defend number one from here. Doesn't matter which parada I'm using, it's just the load. I can defend number two from here. I can defend number two from here, so I can swoop up on it. We have a term for it, actually. It's a rising hit. And anyway, so forth. So keep that in mind. Kind of focus on that, that where the paradas are. See, I'm getting emotional again, obviously. It's not really, it's just the allergy stuff. Okay, all right. So what if we combine these things? We combine a strike and we combine a defense together in this particular drill. We'll call this variable number two. So, Sagang Sagawas, we typically only use Sagang Sagawas in this because mathematically it flows. And by mathematic, I mean you're in the right position for everything. It's a count. All right, so if we're in Alisto, I'm going to prepare because my strike is going to come out. I'm going to go in, I'm going to strike one, right? But I'm going to defend against one, and I'm going to strike one again. Over to this direction, I'm going to strike two. I'm going to defend against the two coming in, and I'm going to strike two again. My peripheral vision, I brought to here. I'm going to step and strike three. I'm going to defend three, and I'm going to strike three again. I'm going to rotate now to my left. I'm going to strike four. I'm going to defend four. I'm going to strike four. I'm around to the front again. I'm going to strike five. I'm going to defend five, and I'm going to strike five. Okay, so now we're going to go back the other direction. I'm going to start striking one, defending against a one, and striking a one. Striking two, defend against two, and striking two. To the back, striking three, defending three, striking three, shift and four, defend four, and strike four, and five, defend five, and strike five. Alisto. Okay? And if you might feel we're going through this stuff too fast. Again, it is, I'm giving you bits and pieces, I guess, so to speak, so you have something later. And so you can have a lot of ways to think about this stuff. So let's take this same drill, and we're going to do what we would call the other side of this movement that we just did. So in strike, cover, strike, you have cover, strike, cover. So I'm going to defend one, I'm going to strike one, and I'm going to defend one again. Then I'm going to defend two. So you can see where we did this. We step forward, we step back, we step forward. In this case, we're going to step back, step forward, step back. So it's more dance steps, really. Okay, so from this position, and then there's no Andam because we're defending. So number one is coming in from this angle, right? So I'm going to strike one here. My opponent's one. I'm going to deliver one, and I'm going to parry one again. Two's coming in here. I'm going to parry two. I'm stepping back. I'm going to strike two, and I'm going to parry two again. Three's coming in here, right? I'm going to parry three. I'm going to strike three, and I'm going to parry 3. 4 is coming in here. I'm dropping back. I'm parrying 4. I'm striking 4, and I'm parrying 4. And here's 5. I'm parrying 5. I'm striking 5. I'm parrying 5. And Alisto. All right, so another aspect. So you have your strikes, your parries, your strikes and parries together. What you don't have is the alla contra movements in this with a flowing pattern. That is because we have other flowing patterns for alla contra. So alla contra serves, it's because it serves as either what we call a switch. So it's connecting, right? It's strength against strength, connecting, but it's slipping through to the other side, and then it's returning. That's in long range. In other ranges, it's connecting and what we call shaping. It's going to shape my opponent's weapon. In the next range, which is middle range, it is connecting, right, together to stop. That's my cadence 1, my cadence 2 is my trap, my cadence 3 is my return. Okay, so that's why we don't do alla contra with this generally. All right, so we've gone through cinco. Has anybody done diez before? Okay, diez. Now diez is a little weird because we're going to keep our rotation going, but the number 10 move is what we call a liso move, and that goes like this. I'm hitting my opponent from behind as I'm going this way. You want to try it? We'll try number 10, and then we'll do 12, and then we'll do an additional drill. Just go slow about it, right? It's just go slow. So we're going to do diez. There's 2 sides of it. Once, when we're here and we get to 5, we rotate back. That's the second part of the drill to make one set, really. When we get to 10, we're going to do the back hit, and then we're going to start again, go very slow. So from here, Andam, going forward, this is striking 1, right? And 2, and 3, and 4, and 5. So all's well so far. Now we're going to go back this way, but we're going to deliver 6. To the back side, we're going to deliver 7. To our right, we're going to deliver 8. To the front, we're going to deliver 9. So this is the diez set. This is where number 10 comes in. So when we deliver 9, we're going to lift our weapon up and deliver 10 here. That means we're going now this way as our new orientation. Let's go through that one more time. So from here, Andam, going forward, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, and then 10's there. Now our orientation is this way. So what I want you to do is go forward that way 1 step and deliver 1. And hold it right there for a second. Now we're going to rotate to our right, because we always rotate to our right first. 1. So we rotate to our right, 2. Again, 3 and 4. Now 5 is over here. Now 6 is to this left. 7 is in the front. 8 is here like this. And 9 is here like this. And then we deliver 10. Because of the configuration of diez, we're going to do 1-2 move. So I strike 1, and I strike 2 to parada. Okay, Alisto. Kind of strange, huh? So we're doing these. We're doing clockwise, counterclockwise with the 10 moves. We're repeating moves on each position, right? So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like we were doing cinco. But now 6, 7, 8, 9. So then I deliver a 10 that direction. I reorient to this direction, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 that way. And that at all. And I finish off with what they call the Carranza ending, which is just a 1-2. It's called that because Vatican said, when you end your Carranza, I got to know there's nothing else coming. So you give me a 1 and you give me a 2 and go to the parada at 3. Okay, so that was the rule. So we call it the Carranza ending. And we have this in various things, usually not in the cinco moves, but we'll have it in other things. Okay, so you want to try doce. Now, Doce's not as weird, but we go through Doce. It's same rotation, right? Same rotation. But when we get to 10 and 11, you know, it's a low 10 and 11 and then 12. So let's try that. So from Alisto, just go slow, back to Andam, very slow, striking 1 and 2, make sure you're looking, 3 and 4 and 5, just like we did before. Here's 6 and 7 and 8 and 9. So we're back at the front. We're going to rotate now to our right again. So here's 10, and here is 11, and then to this side it's 12. There's my 12. Good, good. Now, from this position, we're going to reorient just like we did for our doing dièse to this place. So this is going to be our number 1. Yes, with Payaagi. So we're going to do Payaagi through here, like this, and I'm going to deliver 1 here, and I'm going to my right, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and then back 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, rotating back 10, and 11, and 12. Payaagi here, 1 and 2. Alisto. All right, so you get the sense that when we do something clockwise, counterclockwise, if 12 was here, it's going to find itself on the opposite side here, right? And that is because we reorient along lines, you know, north and south lines. So each position, when you do it in that fashion, it is in the opposite position that it was. And so, like, you know, that's so much to think about. But as you do the drill, and I think you can probably have you do the drill a lot, you're going to see how those things plug in, how they fashion. So you can take, so that was a doce. Doce, upat, puntos doce is one way to say it. So it is the 4 points with the 12 strikes. So now you have dièse and you have doce, but also you have Sagang Sagawas with that, and you have a la contra on both of those. So that gives you those. There's the 3 base moves. There's and then 2 more on each of those. What are those, 9 or something like that? Anyway, so these are, sometimes people call these kata. They're not actually kata, but maybe they are in a sense, because you're like in kata, you're seeing the story. You're becoming part of the story. If you have a good mental life about your kata, then you're seeing the attack and how you would address that attack. Same way here. It is really basically the same. So if that weren't enough, we have now what's called Balhin Elakang. It's stepping and shifting. This seems odd at first. Big engine. This seems odd at first, but once you get these movements down, they're very fluid movements. So why do we do this? So we do this so that we can learn stepping and shifting within the different sets that we train with. I do not know of any other groups ever that do things based on sets. Doesn't make us better, doesn't make us worse. Make us a little weird, but we do everything based on these sets. This has a historical context to Batikan's teachers. His father taught an art called the cinco teros. It's the 5 strikes and the things that come with it. And then the other people that he learned from had, you know, different striking angles and so forth. He ultimately chose what he chose for Kasag system. So that's why we do the particular angles that we do. And that's why those angles even have variables within them that we don't count. Okay, so this is going to be, I'll do it for you first so you can watch. This is going to be the cinco, Balhin Elakang, shifting and stepping. Yeah, you can just take a knee. All right, so it starts out just like our other ones did. So I go into Andam, and I come forward and I strike 1. Now from this position, I've got a load and strike 2 here. So that's my balhin. So I strike 1 and I strike 2. I now have someone advancing on me from here, but they're advancing to the point where I can't really utilize my weapon well. This is why I drop back from this person and I strike 3. I then shift here and I strike 4 like this, and then I strike 5 here. Okay? So if I started here, I end there with 5. It's kind of got that same flavor as the 4 points. So I strike 1, I strike 2, I drop back for 3, I shift for 4, and I strike 5. Now to continue the drill, I strike 1 here, I strike 2 here, I strike 3 here, and 4 here, and 5 here. So it's following that same idea that if half of the set ends at 5 that way, the full set ends at 5 this way, right? And I started this way. So in a sense, that gives it sort of that kata flavor. That wasn't the intention. But when I say kata flavor, kata begins and ends pretty much, most of them, not all of them, in the same area where you started, right? If you've done Japanese martial arts especially, because they're particular about those things. Chinese arts don't do that, but a lot of the Japanese do. So, so that's cinco, right? You want to try cinco? Okay, good, good. Okay, so we'll start here, everybody facing this way. I'm going to go back to Andam. We'll go very slow. I'm going to strike 1. I'm going to strike 2 over here. 2, that's my shift. Right, and I get to Parada 3 when I do that. I'm going to drop back now and deliver 3 here. Now I'm just going to shift to my left and deliver 4. And then I'm going to deliver 5 back towards that back wall. Let's do that again. All right, so from here, Andam, going forward, 1, shift, 2, drop back, 3, shift, 4, go back, 5. Now from here, we want to deliver a number 1 to the direction we're pointing. So I hit 1, I shift to my left. 2, I drop back for 3, I shift for 4, and I go back to 5. Alisto. Basically, that's it. So that's the cinco part of it. Flowing movement, because we do it different ways. You can strike 1 here and let your position come up to here for 2, but deliver from the same position like that. So you're here, you're shifting here, you're dropping back, and delivering your other strikes. So that's a little bit different. But this pattern that I gave you right here, kind of like the other patterns, it always stays pretty much the same. Well, I shouldn't say that. Pretty much the same at the first part, right? Because then it changes as you go through other movements. So let me do D-Ace for you, and then we can try that one. Okay, so in D-Ace, again, I'm going to strike 1, I'm shifting, 2, I'm dropping back, 3, I'm shifting, 4, and then I'm shifting 5. All that's the same, right? But now I'm going to deliver a 6. But my 6 is going to drop back this way. I'm going to deliver 6 here, and now I'm going to go this direction for my strike anyway, but not my body. I'm going to go 7 here. From here, I'm going to deliver an 8. I'm going to do what's called a Alisto move. It's one of 7 that we do. A Alisto move where I'm stepping here like this. The attack's coming in from this side, or my person is coming in from this side. And I'm going to drop back and I'm going to deliver 9 through here, and then I'm going to deliver 10 there. So when I deliver 10 there, I'm done with that guy or whatever, I'm going to go this way. So let me do that again. So I'm going forward, I'm going 1, and I'm facing the other direction now, I think. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. That was actually the second half of the drill. All right, you want to try it? Yeah, easy. All right, so Alisto, Andam, going forward and striking 1, shift to your left, 2, drop back for 3, shift and strike 4, go back to the back and 5. Now your left leg it's going to scoot back behind you, and you're dropping back and you're delivering 6. Right? So your 6 is there, towards that wall. Now you're dropping back again with your right leg and flipping this over for 7. So 7 is an odd configuration. From here, you're just delivering an 8. Now you're doing a Alisto move. So at this point, everybody's right foot should be pointing towards the wall there, that wall, whichever wall that is. That was 8. So my right foot, my back leg is out. If you use a Japanese term, it's Zenkutsu Dachi. Our term is Porma. So I've got this foot forward this way and this one back here. All right, so what was that one? That was 8, right? Okay, so I'm going to step over with my right foot. This is Alisto move, and deliver 9 here, and deliver an immediate 10 here. So 10 is odd. I'm delivering a 10 here, but I'm focused this way. Let's do that again. Just go that far. Alisto. Andam. Going forward, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Drop back. 6. Drop back. 7. So your 7 is that way, directly, right? Your left foot is out in front. Shift. There's an 8. Now you're doing this Alisto move, and there's 9, and deliver 10 that way. Now you're going to go this way. That's your new orientation. Going forward, 1, same shifts. 2, drop back. 3, shift. 4 and 5. Now you're dropping back this way. 6. You're dropping back again. 7. You're shifting, and there's 8. You're pulling around with Alisto. There's 9, and you deliver 10 here. These always end in Carranza ending, so I'm going forward. 1 and 2. Alisto. You'll do this more, I think, later on in your training. Okay, so I want to say simple, right? But I know it's not. I know it's a lot of weird shifts and moves. But let's look at Doce now, the 12 movements. You'll get to a point where you do this enough and you see the relationship between all of these movements. They're kind of the same movements, but when we go up in our strikes, we're moving the same way that we did at first, but we're just delivering a different strike. Okay, so we're going to do Doce. I better watch Doce first. So I'm at Alisto, Andam, I'm going forward, 1, 2, drop back, 3, 4, 5, I'm dropping back this way, 6, dropping back this way, but I'm striking this way, 7, 8, 9, and before we were doing 10 this way, but now we're doing 10 here with this shift. We're dropping back for 11 here, but we're doing 12 this way. So you can guess that 12 is going to end up on that side next time, right? 12. So I'm going to do just like what we did in one of the drills, where I'm going to go Payong through here, and I'm going to start my new position here. So there's 1, and there's 2, and there's 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and then 10, and 11, and 12 here. So that's it, basically. So why do we do this weird sort of dance thing? It's just like everything we do in a drill. We're pursuing certain skills within the drills. Okay, every drill, if it doesn't have several purposes, then it's probably not a good drill. So there's several things going on. So when I'm hitting and shifting, this in Casag anyway is very efficient movement for our strikes and our defenses. So I'm going to talk about the ranges in a little while, but if I've got someone coming in at me for a strike at long range, I have choices, right? I can drop the target back, target being me. I can drop the target back so that's not going to connect. I can just let it pass, or I can enter into the cut zone and do something against my opponent. If I enter in the right way, which is at what's called mid-arc, then I can disable my opponent and be out of the cut zone. It's called one cadence. So one cadence. The strike, the cadence is the hit against the flesh. All right, so there's kind of that aspect. But in this, as you're striking, the other side, which we won't do, are the defenses in this same pattern, because it's all the reverse. But anyway, if I'm striking in this pattern, I'm striking one here, but now I've got something happening on this side. So it's teaching me that I can shift my movement to this side, right? And all I have to do is shift my feet. So if you're talking Japanese terms, Zenkutsudachi, Zenkutsudachi, or what we call Porma to Porma. So I strike 2. I have an aggressive move from this side. So I am then protecting myself by dropping back and delivering this strike, right? I have an immediate move here. I need to move here, so I'm striking through there. And from this side, look, I'm moving here. I'm striking like this. I then have something happening here where I'm moving this weapon this way, but this one is this way, so it's a 7, right? 7, but it's moving this way and then this way. Then I'm around this way, and I'm taking care of this situation through here. I'm going low through here, and I'm going through here, and I'm delivering my 12 here. So the story within my strikes is just a drill story, right? But the movements within the drill are the things that I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to develop them. I strike one here, right? My peripheral vision is already here. It's already extended out to here. And there's my 2. Now my peripheral vision is extended out this far. So I'm taking care of this. My peripheral vision is here, right? And then I'm doing my next move. I'm continuing my peripheral vision all around me. So I'm training myself to continually watch in the peripheral where nasty things happen, right? Nasty things come out of the peripheral. And that's why we're training for that, is the shifting and movement. Now, I may not have to take what I would call a gross motor movement, a big step, which long range has a lot, but I can shift. I can just shift, and I can do what I need to do. Right? So I might even use it if let's say if I defend against my opponent through here, and then I shift for my strike. I'm not only loaded with my weapon, but also the body, the hips are all moved in together to do my strike. So that's what those drills are kind of all about, is those things. Now, we won't do it, but I showed you, I talked about defenses. So we're striking one here like this, right? We're striking 2 here. Or we're defending one here, we're defending 2 here. So that part of it is a little more, I think it's a little more complex, a little harder to relate, because you're sort of doing the opposite of what we're doing in these drills. And so we try to stay away from drills that are too mentally taxing, but that have a good story behind them, so to speak. All right, so that is those. I wanted to talk about our combative distances. And I want to talk about how they function and why they function the way they do. So in the past, we typically would just say long, medium, short. But there's actually a distance in between long and medium that we really haven't done much with, because it's sort of a unique section that, I'm not sure exactly how to explain that, but it just has its own qualities to it, and it's called long medium. Pretty creative, right? So you got long, medium, and then you have short range, corto. So what happens at these ranges are the way that your weapon functions based on its own attributes is at long range first. Long range is basically is tip to flesh, and there's a Filipino terms for it, Visayan terms, but it's tip to flesh. So that means that I'm not interacting with my opponent's weaponry, but with my opponent only. So when you practice your typical weapon to the hand stuff, so if Ken is striking at me and I'm moving here like this, and I hit his hand and he does whatever strike he wants, and I'm hitting through here, right? And I'm hitting here like this. I am not dealing with that. Sometimes that is hit so you can get the sense of having a hit. That's okay too. But this is what I'm really dealing with this. This is where when you guys get your golf tubes, this is a good way to practice this particular part of the art. So at first I'm going to the hand. This is a tip to the flesh, right? But second, he does a strike at me, and maybe I'm not going to go to the hand. Maybe I'm going to go to some other thing. Maybe I'm going to go on the inside through here, or he's going to strike. Oops, sorry. He's going to strike high at me, and I'm going to go this way. It's just an immediate strike to the body. I'm not trying to deal with this in any way other than if I'm going to take out the fang. So the fang, of course, he could come in this way. I could even come up through this way. I could come in this way, like this. And I know Ken was going to work with you on this, but the fang is this. We have 5 points to the fang, 5 points of mobility. The first point is the fingers. Second point is the back of the hand, lots of nice bones to break there. Next point is the wrist. Next point is the elbow, and then the shoulder. So it's 5 points. When we go to the mobility, it's the toes, instep, ankle, knee, hip. That's how that works. So you notice that there's a kind of a pattern going on here. These are the things that extend out the furthest, right? If you can take out the fingers, it's pretty good, right? The guy's going to drop his weapon, most likely. The back of the hand, maybe drop his weapon, but you got a lot of nice things to bust up there. The wrist and so forth. So it's just whatever comes into play. And you see as Ken's striking at me, you can see those things that they come into play. This comes into play first. So if I'm going this way, I might be going off this way to destroy the fingers. I'm not really thinking that. I'm just thinking, destroy this thing. You know, it's come at me, destroy it. So a la counter a lot of times is where I'm going to hit the fingers, right? Sagang, Sagawas a lot of times is the back of the hand, or it's at the wrist or something like that. Okay? So when you're thinking about these long-range movements, it might even be that as he strikes at me, that I let this pass and then I take out this shoulder here. It's called a pawas. It goes past me. I pass it through. Or maybe if he strikes one this way, I let it pass through and then I catch him on the rebound there, and I'm hitting him there. The point of long range is that I'm not trying to shape anything. I'm just trying to hit the best target I can. That's all I want to do. I don't want my weapon interacting with his. So this is why we say this is a one-beat cadence. The one-beat cadence, he strikes, right? And there's my one-beat cadence. It's there. Let's say theoretically, or if it's a Disney movie, it's all over at this point, because it's Fable. Not always Fable, but that's the ideal world. All right, so now we have the next range. The next range is long medium. So I'm still kind of in the long range, but I'm closer to my opponent, but I have the opportunity for either direction, either long range or medium range. So, goodbye. So in long range, it is a shaping of my opponent's weapon. So Ken can come in at me like this, right? I'm not going to get the target entirely out of the way because I am going to interact with the weapon through here like this. So it's already through here, it's already changing its direction, so I'm changing it to go some other way. The reason that I'm doing that is to provide myself with an opening. So if I go Sagang, Sagawas, and he strikes at me through here, right? So I'm going through here because I'm going to be delivering this strike there. That's why the cadence is 1-2. If he goes to the inside, let's say, it's going to be 1, I might shape, or I might just let it go through, and 2 there. The next approach would be that I'm going to actually move in closer and shape this. So he comes in with 1, so I'm going to shape this down through here. In my shaping, it could be a cut through here, right? But I'm shaping it in through there. There's the 1-2. If he comes to the inside and I just simply come through like this, if I miss this, I come through, this line of reverberation sends it back, right? So I may come in where I'm going to hit here to get that stop in time. He can still go through, but that's what I'm going to do next. right? So it's a manipulation of my opponent's weaponry in order to open a window or enter in through a window that's already there I don't have to open, or something of that effect. So you saw the augmentation movements. A lot of times augmentation on your weapon is used with these. So let's say if Ken strikes at me and I come in, so this augmentation is typically that I'm going to catch. This keeps sliding. I'm not going to be able to do much with this, but as it slides through, I'm going to be keeping it in a particular pattern. I'm going to keep it going. So now I have this window open to me. Ken can come back through that window because he hasn't been destroyed, right? Nothing's been destroyed about him. And that can be 1 there, and my 2 can be here like this, right? My 3 or whatever. But that's a 1-2 cadence still. If he comes from the outside, I can misshape him like this, right? I can misshape his weapon to some other direction and then deliver through the open window that I created. That's medium long range. Now, medium, because I could, as he comes in, I could touch that hand. Of course, now I'm out to long range. That's what I want to do. So it was easy to move through those ranges. So that is keeping it going as Sagang Sagawas. If he comes and I go to the inside, I could pop in through this way and hit him here, or I could do, there's a variety of things that you can do in this long medium range. Typically though, I'm not really doing medium range, which is presenting a barrier, or it is the use of my weapon to suppress my opponent. All right, so if I go through the use of my weapon to suppress my opponent, basically that's that I'm coming in on my opponent so I can touch his hand through there, and if I've got a blade, of course, my blade is right there. From the other side, I have to, because it's medium range, I have to stop him here like this. So my 1-2, it's my 1-2, my 3 is whatever comes next. That's why the cadence is 1-2-3. So again, 1 slow motion, 2, of course this is 1-2, it's very fast, right? 1-2-3, there's my 3. There's my 4, 5, 6, 7, 100, or whatever I want to do. So, but my 1-2-3 is the part of the cadence. Going to close range, unless combat starts here, so it's immediate close range, right? And even with this, there's a type of cadence that goes along with this. There is presumably the attack, right? So whatever I don't know what you're going to do. So he's attacking me. I'm close enough. Of course, we have weapons, but I'm talking close range. It could be knife, it could be hand to hand, or whatever. So it's still the 1, right? And then 2, or 1, 2, or 3, or whatever. Or chances are that if I stop him here and this hand comes in through here, that's going to be my 2, and this is my 3. So cadence doesn't change much except for distance. At close range, it's quicker, right? So and so in my medium range cadence, so I'm showing 1s. Let's show 2. He strikes in at 2. So I'm going. That's my 1-2 movement right there. Pow. Smell that? Yes, sir. My cadence, if I go Hinoplo system, is 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. These don't move at the same time. There's a slight beat difference, a slight beat. This is saving my life, so to speak, and this is just assuring it like this. 1, 2, 3, or whatever 3 is going to be. It could be anything. All right? So when we talk about these cadences, it is my response to an attack at a particular distance. This is kind of from the world of fencing in a sense, right? But it's Filipino fencing, so it has its own special quality. So what we could do, if you'd like, is to work with these distances a little bit, so we get some fighting in between one another, and then we'll move on to something else after that. So let's start out with long range. It's easiest. We can go kind of a freestyle like the usa para usa, where it's a 1 for 1, or duha para duha. I deliver 2, you defend, you deliver 2, so forth. But I think it's going to be easiest to start out through the numerata. Just going through the numerata. So let's go to dièse, right? So you know your number 10. You're going to deliver it back like this. If you're not sure about dièse, probably someone else is here. So you want to get with a partner, and what we want to do is we'll start out and we're going to go Sagang Sagawas. So I am not going to touch his weapon. He's going to strike 1 to me, right? He's going to strike 1. I'm going to make sure that I'm coming just to the hand. And in 2, just to the hand. 3, just to the hand. Now, there's another aspect of this, and that is called a mid-arc strike. The ideal thing in an ideal world, which is not, but an ideal world, is when he gets to this position. This is the mid-arc. So his arc has started, and he's mid-arc through here. This is where my strike wants to come in, is here. Not only do I somewhat alter his plane of cut, but I'm hitting him at the point where, if from this position or from here, or from this position from here, like this, from the top down or bottom up, it is going to have the most effect. Now, if he goes past that, it's hard for me to do much with destroying this fang of his, right? So I'm not trying to hit him here. I'm trying to hit him up here, right there. Then it can go past, and he delivers 2. If he delivers fast, I have to deliver faster. If you go slower, I have to deliver there and go slow. What did you call that slowness?
The staccato.
The staccato, yeah. So you want to go slow, and you want to try to get it at mid-arc. So mid-arc here there's no arc. it's a mid-thrust basically. Okay, so let's try that. Let's go dièse, one person, then dièse back the other person, and one person goes Sagang Sagawas. No stick hitting, just hand hitting at this point. I'm going to go to the outside. I'm going to be striking my opponent here. And so when that 10 comes in, my impact is here, right? Right. The reason that we want to do it this way, remember I said that each thing is a story in itself, right? So we're doing it in a drill format, and it's easy to go 1 and 2 and 3, 4, so forth. But I want you to help each other. So if I'm going to deliver a strike to somebody, I'm not just going to do a strike like this. I'm going to do a strike where I know that you can hit this, and make sure you hit this there so you can see it. I can see it there. Okay, good. So I'm going to go through. I'm going to deliver a strike here, and I want to see it hit here like that. Okay, so see it in your mind. Slow is fast, something like that. Fast is slow, right? I probably screw up the way it's said, but you know what I mean. You know, slow. You see it slowly, and it's doing fast is good. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Question for you, Maestro.
Yes, sir.
We'll give you this and then we can talk about it. So when you look at particularly like 6 and 7,
Yes.
so I'm assuming, so I teach a couple things, right? So I mean, obviously you have this. So
Right.
either you got to make sure that you are doing a great job, or sometimes I tell people this is an okay time to manipulate the weapon because the hand might not interrupt the arc
Yeah.
or the path of the weapon.
Yeah.
So if I'm defending this to the hand,
Right.
I just want to use body movement, right? To make sure that I'm off the path.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Exactly. So if you're delivering 6 to me, right, I have to deal with this. I can deal it with, when you get a little more skill, you can deal with it here like this. But this now has to come over this way, right? Hard for it to come up. So the best way for just to keep long range genre is to take the target, right, and move underneath the target and let this hit come up. And then when a 7 comes in like this, move underneath or move, not that way, move underneath through here, right, and then do my hit.
Okay, kind of that, almost that bobber.
Yeah, right. You can, well, this weapon is easy, right? If you strike at me one of those, I can drop back easily there. I can do it with 6 too. If you drop 6, I can drop back here and still deliver that long range. If I have a shorter weapon, it's tougher for me to do that. That's where I'm going to have to go underneath. Yeah, right. So with a long weapon, easy.
Okay.
Right.
And then so to go underneath, you're coming from inside to outside, if you can, if it's a perfect world.
Yeah,
you're kind
it's-
of moving inside to outside for
Tip-
that hit, is that right? So
Right,
that
right.
gives you 6.
Typically a bob, right? So I'm from here, so I'm going to have to sway and bob to deliver my hit,
Okay.
right? In this way. And because we're doing it numerata style, right? So, you know, all I'm trying to do is set it up so that you can follow the genre of striking the flesh, however that has to come out, right? That's all it is. Because, you know, 6 is probably going to be something else. You know, 6 is probably going to be a 9 after that, if you're flowing through things,
Yeah.
right?
Perfect.
Yeah. So it's not that it's that there's some set rule.
Yeah.
It's that just hit the hand
Hit the
is the
hand
rule. Yeah.
And make sure you're clear.
Yeah. Because you know, I'm restricting the drill. So by that I mean I'm restricting the drill by saying hit the flesh, right? In this case, the hand. That's going to be the target. But the other restriction is that you've got to go Sagang Sagawas, right? So if you strike 5 at me, for example, like 5 like this, and then you strike 6, it's going to be most logical for me to move 6 here. But when you're teaching in a particular genre, I'm going Sagang Sagawas. Well, this is a la Kuntra because I'm on the inside. So, but this would be the most logical movement. That's why ultimately there's no Sagang and there's no ala Kuntra. It's whatever flows forward. So if I'm flowing this way, I'm going to flow back this way, right? And I'm going to flow back this way. So, you know, there's going to be whatever they are. But when you keep it restricted to a genre, then they have to deal with
Those limitations.
yeah, those limitations. How am I going to move in order to destroy the fang and not be hit by the target? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, salamat. And I'm not so sure that putting restrictions on drills, they all have them,
Yeah.
it has to be explained. Otherwise, they say this is awkward. I wouldn't do it this way. That's true. You wouldn't do it that way. But when you deal with each one in its own story, and with this criteria applied to it, that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the story of 6, the story of Sagang Sagawas, the story of not being hit by it. That's all one part of it. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. It very much does. I like the word somebody said, and I stole it because I liked it a lot. Was training scars. When you work within those restrictions, you get a training scar of a part of it that's not real,
Yeah.
and then you have to have an overlapping drill that manifests to deal with the training scar. So you have complete. So you complete your training by way of multiple drills, which is what you do with us.
Yeah.
Have this drill and it created these problems, and so we have this drill that helps you understand those things. Yeah. Great.
And part of that also is to trigger the mind to saying, this is awkward. I don't know. This is awkward, right?
Yeah.
But that is because it's flowing in the drill. And so the awkwardness comes out that way. But if we were just working on 6, just 6.
Just 6.
Yeah, see, and use that criteria.
Yeah.
It makes more sense. Coming from a load point. If you move too fast, it's a drill, right? It's just a drill. If you move too fast, the load points aren't possible. So by that I mean, if Gary strikes at me here, for example, so he's going to strike at me, right? And he's helping me because I know that I want to hit it right here. So he's going to strike at me. I have to load from here, right? I'm going to have to load that movement. Now when he strikes at me number 2, I don't want to just take him here like this, right? So he strikes at me number 2, and I've loaded already through here. But he went too fast, right? So I couldn't hit him because you know how that hurts. So I'm loaded, I'm trying to hit him right here. That's all that is. So he goes for 3, and I've got to load from here, right? I've got to come back out. I don't want to wait in the cut zone for the next move. Now we're doing it systematically. We're doing it by the numerata. So the drill is set. You have certain restrictions in the drill because you're doing a certain way. But one of the things you want to do is make sure that it's its own story. So if I defended one, in this case, I wouldn't necessarily be staying out here waiting for that next movement, right? I'm going to be back out of the cut zone and go into the cut zone and out of the cut zone, right? Just like that. So Batikan would call this the flow of the bamboo, right? So the bamboo flows back, the wind stops, bamboo goes in. In the out and around stuff that we do is to reflect like the ocean that you come into, right? But it flows around you, but then it devastates you when it comes back in. Except it's going to come in from another angle. What the ranges are all about. So long medium range, remember, I am trying to manipulate the weapon that's coming at me. So I have to interact with it some way to deflect it, to shape it in some format, so that I can get my 1-2 beat. So my first beat reacts with the weapon. I'm not quite at the long range I wanted it to be at. I'm within that strikeable range. So I'm going to work with it. So let's do Sagang Sagawas. It's always easiest to work that way. So when this strike is coming in, it's going to be moving it, just like what we did in against the hand. But I'm going to be moving it and then striking. Right? So again, it comes in, and I'm going to move it and strike. He comes in with number 2. I'm going to move it and strike. 3. So if I don't move, he's going to hit me. Right? So I don't move, and I manipulate this. Strike. Comes in this way. I missed it, but I strike. Should be able. So I miss this right like this, and I can strike. I can take 6 and I can move off to this side. This is kind of similar to, I think, probably more of what you're used to, like this. He's going to do 8. I'm going to interact with it. 9. I'm going to interact with it. And then 10 is just going to be 10. Pow. All right, so that's the first part of that. Here's something additional. As you're going through this, we went kind of fast, but as you're going through this, you get, remember you're going to interact, typically weapon with weapon, but not always. So if this 5 is coming in for me, right? 5 is coming in through here. So this weapon isn't ready or who knows what. If it's coming in through here, I can take the tip of it down. I can take the tip of it this way. I can take the tip of it this way. So since we're going to Sagang Sagawas, he comes in, I'm going to just take the tip there and deliver my strike. Again, he comes in there. If my weapon was on this side, it's going to be there. But we're going Sagang Sagawas, right? So I'm restricting you. Number 6 comes in, right? He's trying to strike me through here like this. When we're doing long range, I'm going to have to either extend back, the target back, or I'm going to have to go under and do my hit here. In this case, I'm going to try to interact with a weapon. I can hit it, that's the first way. The other way is just like what I showed you, which is here, right, like this. So I'm taking it down, pow. Little misshapen from some of the other strikes, but my hit is here. I can take it this way. He strikes it. I can take it off this way and hit there. Or I can take it to the inside, which we're really not doing, and I'm hitting here. Your options, I would say, to do Sagang Sagawas are going to be down and over the top, or to the side and from this side. Even if it's a blade, here's what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with the top of the blade or the side of the blade, not the underneath of the blade, the nasty part, right? So number 7 comes in, right? Number 7, and here's his blade actually this way, right? So in this case, if I worked with my weapon, I'm just shaping it to this direction and maybe coming back, or shaping it and coming around. It could be redondo. But I can also take this way and I can move it this way and hit through there. I'm typically not going to try to go down like this. You see his knuckles right here? That's where that blade is. But I could go up, right? He comes in and I could ascend my check and do my hit there. I would say, well, do any of those except for this one down on 7, right? So you get number 8. Number 8 is not something you can manipulate the hand with too well at this range. Now, at medium range, I could. At medium range, I could present a barrier, clear this away, and do my strike. But in this case, all I want to do is move this like this. If I touch his hand, it's fine. But there's my first cadence. So again, first cadence, second cadence, right? From the other side, first cadence, second cadence. Number 10, first, second, or first, second. Just whatever. He's got a great target here, so I could take the heel if I wanted to, just from here down to here. So, medium, long range. Try that just a little bit with those variables. Okay? We'll do medium range utilizing, well, primarily vertical stick, which is tip up movements. Could be, there's some tip down movements, maybe. We'll use it though as most as we can tip up movements. So in medium range, it's a 1, 2, 3, right? So it's going to be, when we're doing alla contra, it's going to be a stop with a check and then something else. So if we take number 1 and Ken comes in, I'm going to stop. This immediately goes from my check, right? 1, 2. My 3 is here. I'm going to retain this way, right? So that is not a good. That's not a bad pattern. You go 1 here like this. You can go low, right? You can go this way. You can go this way. There's all kinds of things you can do, but it's alla contra, so it's a little bit different. Number 2 comes in, and my hit is here, like this. Then I've got all this window open through here, so I can do my hit through here. I can step back, do a long strike here to whatever's out here. You know, it's in the cut zone. But this is my basic 1, 2, 3. He comes low. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to dip down, vertical stick here, and stop him here like this. Easiest thing to do with this is when you control this is to extend his arm and strike him there. I pull him off balance. If I'm going to cut anything, I'm opening up all of these good places to cut, right? Dr. Jack can tell us exactly what those things are. So if he strikes from this side, it's just like this, right? From here. Works good with the thrust. There. So I can push, I can retain or whatever. 5, I'm going to pop this way. It's still going to be the vertical stick movement through here, right? My strike there. 6, again, alla contra, through here, right? There. 7, from here, right? My hit there. If I was going Sagang, I'd be on this side, right? Even though it's kind of on the outside, you know, the idea is that when I go this way, when I go this way and I move this out of the way, and then I'm on the inside. 8, so this way is a downward stick, or I can go vertical stick there, this. Let's go vertical stick so you can kind of train with that. I'm going to go vertical stick through here. I've got my good thrust up here like this. I've got my thrust in here. I've got always I have this, where I can move back. From the other side, vertical stick through here, my movement through there. So I'm just kind of controlling this. So I stop, push, stop, or you can do anything once you stop it, right? You can disarm, boom, all kinds of stuff. Number 10, you're just going to go on this inside because we're going alla contra through here, right? And I'm going to take him here. We usually say number 10, leave it alone, just let it be, just block it. But you know, you can do one of these tactics with it too. Make sure you're learning vertical stick on all of these first before. I mean, it gets fun to do other things. I agree, but make sure that it's going to be vertical stick. So when she's striking at me through here like this, right? It's vertical stick. Strikes me number 2, it's vertical. Well, mostly vertical stick, right? 3, right? It's vertical stick through here. The reason that I'm doing this is because there are a world. This is like what we call Crusada, forms the cross, the Crusada. So, but there's a world full of follow-ups from vertical stick, right? So I stop in here. This is my 1, 2, right? Where's my 3? Could be anywhere. My 3 could be anywhere. It could be that I go around this way. There's my disarm there. It could be that. And this sets up for a number of different disarms. It could be that when she comes in, like this through here, I'm just simply going to retain this and utilize, there's like an underneath arm 7. I can do my strike there. Granted, this is kind of a long weapon, but you have all these options. Additionally, she comes in, right? This way or like this, I can slash up this way. If I control this hand like this, I can either come back in this way, I can throw this hand through this way, because this is where I want to be. As on the outside, it's safer. But vertical stick sort of gets me in that position. Now, it's not that I can't do the hinoplos. So she comes in, right? I can do hinoplos through there. This opens up a world of puño hits. It also opens up her defense against this like that, to stop me there. A little bit easier for her. A little tougher for her to stop this movement from here. So I'm from here like this. I may be drawing out through here. This is a takeaway. Or I may be just cutting this way or hitting this way. This depends. Same way for 3 or 4. I mean, for my movement through here. Direct line to there. Direct line to the sternum. All kinds of things going on there. Snake around, take off, take away, which is, it's okay. I don't particularly like some of the takeaways. But, or it could be that I've come from here. This opens this side up through here. So I'm moving off to this side, and there's my takeaway there. Right? So vertical stick has its own story, I guess is what I mean. So learn vertical stick, although other movements are easy to do. I mean, and they're fun to do. And if we have time, we'll do some of those movements too. I would just wanted to interject that. Now, if we go to close range, the thing with close range, you have to look at what we're dealing with. So we're dealing with basically the same weapon against weapon. This is an unusual circumstance except for in fencing type arts, right? You typically wouldn't have that. In close range though, that means that I'm going to be able to hit my opponent in certain ways that I couldn't at medium range. Medium range and long medium range are designed for me to get back out and deliver a decisive blow from a distance. When you go into close range, it's a different world, right? But you can go into close range with any of these. So if she strikes for me, now I can go back, right? I can get away from it, I can avoid it. That's kind of a long range thought. Or I can stay where I am, that's kind of a long medium. Or I can kind of advance towards my opponent. So I can advance towards my opponent. So now I'm in this shape through here. So from this point, we're talking about stick weapons, right? From this point, I can come in and I can manipulate my opponent. Now this is close range, right? This is where I'm going to be pulling this leg out this way. This is where I'm going to be pushing this leg out that direction. I'm going to try to be moving around. So this is going to be a throw like that, right? I could come like this way. She comes in with that same movement through here. I can come up this way and hit in this way and then do my throw here. Lots of things, just thousands of things, right? And do any of those things that I want. But what makes it close range is that you're kind of in this grappling posture with your opponent. So I'm also in a striking posture. So let's see, if you come in and let's say it to you, like this. So she's coming in this way. This is a super long weapon. I don't want to go out. I don't want to let this go, even though I might destroy it. Here's what I want to do. I want to punch this person like this. It's going to be my punch, right? Or this is going to be my punch here. This is going to be my hit there. That's a puño, right? But I can just use my fist. That's close range. Maybe I'm going to come in this way. There's my disarm, right, from this position. Now I'm going to have to move in. There's my push. All I'm trying to do is set her off, right? But then maybe I'm going to come in and take this. Oh, she moved it. I'm going to take that foot out. It could be lots of things that I would do from that position. So that's where my throws, my locks, my elbow strikes, and all that happen at that close range. Oh, put your weapon back. And that is also where, when we don't have our weapons. So this is where the art informs our empty hands and also informs our bladed movements. So let's say she's going to strike number one at me, and since she has a long weapon, she's going to want to utilize the qualities of that weapon, right? But I have kind of the same choices. I can go underneath it. I can go back from it. I can let it go through, and she can come with the next one. So she can hit one. I can let it go through, and as she's calling from there, then I can attack at that point and suppress the movement here. Or, as she's striking in, I can shoot this in through here, right? There's my takeaway there, and then here's an arm bar here, or a lock bar here, right? Here's a takedown here. I can manipulate the knee from here. This is close range. So I can move from here. I can hit through here, right? I can use the leg here. It opens up a world of fighting that you can't do with something in your hand, right? You can utilize your empty hands against the opponent. And it doesn't matter. You can go Sagang, Sagawas, safest. You can go Alakuntra. So if she comes in and I want to go Alakuntra, it's going to be there, right? That's going to be my hit. Look where this is right here. This is an automatic takeaway. This on. And then 30 other things, right, at that point that you can do. When Villebrel got close in on his opponent, with a lot of that two-stick, it would be this punching match that happens. So maybe she hits like this, right, there, and then I'm going to punch this way. That's all I'm going to do, is I'm going to punch. I don't care about this so much, except this is, I'd rather not get hit by this. But I'm going to be punching my opponent, right? They hit with this other hand, for example, let's say. I'm going to get this out of the way. Maybe I'll use my stick, or maybe I'll just punch in this way. So you've got this punching going for you. I've got my sikoran, my kicks. So she strikes in for example, like this. I suppress the foot here, like this, and I'm going to push it this way. It's a very off-balancing thing. But I'm pushing her this way because I'm going to draw her this way. So at the heart of these corto movements, a little, I mean, I can give you a lot of different drills. You can see how they work. But if your combat goes from long let's say in general, it starts long range. By that I might mean that if you're aware, the attacker has to enter somewhere into your circle, so to speak, right? So they come from a different range. They have to be, unless they're already there, and it's a different thing, but they have to enter into the circle. So as my attackers enter in, so from there, if she steps like that, she can hit me, right? And I know that, so I want to know that distance. So if she's back and then you step in, I know that all I have to do is step back, and I'm out of that range. What I accomplished was living through that hit, but now I got to deal with the next hit that's going to come on right. So it's going to come on this way. I can only retreat so much, but that's part of the cadence. So it could be that she hits like a 1-2-1. So if you hit once, I'm going to move out of the range, and you hit two, and then you hit one. That's where I keep my ground. I stand my ground, and now the range for me is close. Well, for her too. It's close range. So I've got my movements here, right? So she's got a weapon. Let's eliminate that to start with, and I have a weapon now. But it's that I'm keeping at close range, then I'm not moving, and I'm letting her come into my range further, and I'm dealing with the attack. That's the cadence of that. So it'd be like 1, 2, then 3. That's the same idea as moving back, that the bamboo moves back, and then it comes back in, right? Or in our case, the bamboo comes in the first time, right, and I'm moving off to this side, because I'm going to try to get back here, because, you know, she has to turn to get me. So when she turns to get me, of course, I'm going to push her. Not her, but him, whoever, you know, the attacker, right? I just say her because her. So that's where I'm setting myself up in a location that, okay, come back, that is really a suppression movement. So she's striking at me this way. So I'm not suppressing this. Oh, that's a good one. I'm not suppressing this, but what I'm doing by moving here is I'm suppressing her ability to use these. As I move further this way, I'm suppressing them even more. Now, if she's trying to hit with this arm and I'm controlling it from this position, this is suppressed too. She's going to have to try to turn around. That's where the paspas, the pushing stuff comes. In fact, you want to try some of that? Some of the when you get to the backside pushing? Okay, let's do that. So let's do it this way. I'm going to have a weapon. She's going to have a weapon. So this is going to go medium long to close. So we're at long range now. We're at long range. So she would have to step to hit me. So when she steps to hit me, though, I'm not going to avoid. I'm not going to go back. I'm going to stay here, stay my spot. So she comes in, right? And I'm going to have to deflect this way. So my next move from this position is I want to get behind her. And typically I'm going to draw this in for a hit, like this. And then I'm going to come back to this leg perhaps. But she starts to turn her movement, I'm going to push her again this way. For her to turn around and hit me is going to be very difficult. But as she's pushing, or she's coming around, I'm going to push this way, and then I'm going to get a distance to where I can hit her. That's what I'm doing. I'm just pushing my opponent in such a manner that I'm gaining ground. I'm gaining an advantage. Does that make sense? Yeah, so I'm going to the outside. If she comes from this direction, and I go Sagang, Sagawas like this, I then have to suppress here. I have to suppress this hand through here in order to get back to this side. And now it's just the reverse. When she tries to turn from that side, I'm going to go this way. Best thing she could do is turn around this other direction. Right? Right, that like that. Try that a little bit. So you're going to suppress the weapon coming at you. You're going to trap or stop with your check hand, the other, their weapon hand, and you're going to try to move to the side. One's the easiest to start with, doing number one and going off to their right side. However, if you can't achieve that distance, then that's where those fists come in and the hand comes in. So he strikes at me, right? So I'm gonna go boom like this. So now I can't hit from this. This is no kind of a strong hit, right? So maybe I'm going to come in this way, right? Or maybe I'm going to go under this way and hit this. Or maybe I'm going to hit my hand in here. I'm just going to hit him like this, right? Hit him like this. Bar arm him like this. Take this foot like this. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can do once you're kind of into that those positions. Or take out the other leg. There's all kinds of things. Make sense? Okay, good. Now, let's see. I want to move on to another stylistic method. It's called a couple things. The easiest term for it is violin estilo, which, if you can tell what violin, we're talking about violin. You see, the Filipinos took this word violin. Well, we don't like V's. We're going to put a B in front of it, right? They did some strange things with language, but this is basically a violin method, and it's violent. Yes. The violin method is violent. Okay, so what this is we'll probably do it with sticks, but the primary aspect of this is that I am going to enter in immediately extremely close to my opponent. So when my opponent is coming in from this angle, I'm going to clash with him with this. I'm going to control this because I don't want to cut my hand here. I'm going to control this and push this in here, right? So I'm going to push it in through here. If he were able to strike back again, I'm going to be moving it this way and attack him there. If he comes in from this way, I'm going to be moving this way. Comes in from this way, I'm going to be moving this way. And it comes in for a thrust, I'll be moving this way. Here's what I want you to notice. With this method, the tip of my weapon is always moving this way. Now, if I'm able to press in on my opponent, there's a cut to the neck. If I'm not able to press in on my opponent and I go past the center line, there's a thrust. If I come from this other direction like this, and I'm not able to press in for my opponent like this, but I go past it like this, there's going to be a hit and a thrust. Same way when it's lower. So here like this, a thrust. This way, cut, thrust. So when I say violent, this is the heart of Filipino fighting, is these motions. But that doesn't exclude if he hits in at me and I drop back to long range and I'm cut this here like this, right? Doesn't exclude that. Doesn't exclude any of the distances if he comes in again and I just move this way, right? Long, medium. Medium, right? Notice what I'm doing here? Not this, this, right? I don't want him to mess up my blade, goodness sakes. How's it going to get its drink? Right? Okay. So with sticks, though, let's do it with sticks a little bit. And you can kind of get the sense that each of these, I'm going to get a shorter stick, just a 24. You can kind of get the sense that you can kind of see the story of each one of these moves. You know, if I'm able to address my opponent, and it just comes off different ways. Typically my bolo might have been worn here, and I'm moving this way, right? If I'm moving this way, like this from my defense, my cut or whatever, I'm cutting back this way. So I've got a cut and I've got a cut. Slash, slash. It's called swing method, or violin, right? It tips always this way. You never do it that way. So anyway, with the machetes, you should practice that way and see you feel some limitations because it's so, I don't know, it's so immediate what's going to happen. With a stick, we can pull it into kind of a drill. So if he's striking one like this, I can move him this way. If he strikes two like this, I can move him this way. And down here, I can move him this way, and this way, and this way. That's the drill aspect. If he comes for 6, then I can move him this way, just like I did. I'm up here for number 1. This way, I can move him this way. From down here, I move him this way, and I move him this way, and whatever 10 is. And I can move him this way. The point is that I'm always moving like this, right? If I go this far, I stab. If I don't get the cut through here, I stab from this direction. If I'm moving this way, I'm going to cut this way. If I'm moving this way, I can stab this way. So it's close in. It's almost medium close, but it's really medium range, I think, because I've got to manipulate my opponent's hand, go slow motion. So I'm moving my opponent's hand this way. And I'm going to be close into my opponent this way, right? And I can wave back and forth. I can hit here, and then I can wave in. And you can come here, like this way, right? This way. This way. Or whatever. So it's an unusual sort of movement, but I want you to kind of take a back and forth in a drill sort of pattern. So you're just taking, let's go through 5. So there's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and then 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. So he's augmenting his movement. That's good. You can do that. But I want to see you also moving to where this hand is going to be. So you're going to move there. So when you're doing this, it's going to be on the outside. This is going to be on the inside, right? So I'm moving this way. What covers this window? This hand and this. Because this is going to be coming through, right? It's going to be coming through. Anyway, so when you go low, right? Outside, this way, inside, and outside. Any of these things that we do like this, you can break down and just keep it, work on just that sequence, like just the number 1, and you have all the variables, just the number 2, and you work with all the variables and so forth. You can pretty much see, and I've seen that you're seeing them, that there are variables in that movement. That's too small. Anyway, so what I wanted to do now, though, is take you into, I'm going to get my other,
Hiding somewhere.
stick this side, yes.
Oh, wait.
It's going somewhere.
I know where it is.
Oh, okay, good, thank you. Okay, so Casag has a lot of Doble Kara movements. So as I was saying, we do the Sinawali also, but we also do we'll do open Sinawali. And we'll do Sinawali that moves to open. So this would be like 1, 2, and then open like this. The reason that we do this is that it's so that we can move around our opponent. So for example, they're not always hits. Let's see, maybe we can come over here. I can't seem to look at the light. So maybe I'm going to take the Sinawali like this. So he's going to strike in through here. I'm going to move this way, right? I'm going to trap this way. And then I'm going to move this way like this. So this is basically it's a left-hand dominant movement. So by left hand, I mean that the left hand moves first and then this. So in all of our Sinawali, whatever it is, we're going to try to sort of get off to this side all the time. So if I go from the other side and he strikes in here, I'm going to move off to this side like this, 1, 2, 3, or whatever. So we have tip-up movements, is called, tip-down movements. Of course, we have gunting movements. Gunting is just a word for scissors. So we have the closing of the scissors, opening of the scissors. If my opponent strikes in at me and I move this way like this, I'm moving out like this, right? I'm pushing him because I'm trying to get over there again. Now, if I go the other direction and I retain this movement through here, it's because I'm going to do damage within here, right? I'm going to do this damage. This doesn't really retain so much, but it's at least it's protecting me from this side, and I'm going to cut in there. But typically, we're going to go to the outside. So if I move this way, if he comes in, I go this way like this, I'm going to push it this way, and then I'm going to open up as soon as I can rather than continue to do like that. It just gives me more power in my strikes. So this is Sinawali as Sagang Sagawas, really. It's a Sagang Sagawas. So there's Sagang here, Sagang, right? Sagang, and then I'm off to this outside. I could utilize it with other principles. I could take it, for example, like this. I could take it from this side and dip this under for my hit there. That's a kasag move, I guess you'd call it. Let me see. I can go from point up like this, right, to point down like this, and control him once I get him in this position through here. So I can control him. I can send him back in the line of reverberation like this. So, but I'm still going to keep this. So he's coming in. So I'm going to move like this and then continue for my hits there. If he comes low, I can take him and I can move like this and open up and do my strikes. And I'm just showing you, showing you these to show you that there's variations on our double stick. But what I really want to work with right now is it's a slashing and thrusting method. And so what happens is this. I'm going to be, I guess, the aggressor, and Ken's going to be the defender. So actually, it's going to be one weapon in this case. This is done with two, but it's a little more complex. So I'm going to strike with him number 1 like this. He's going to go Sagang Sagawas. I then am going to come around for my thrust here. He is set up for a thrust there. I'm going to defend the thrust there like this, and I'm going to deliver a number 2. And I'm going to deliver a thrust here. He's going to deliver a thrust, and sets me up for 3. I'm going to deliver 3, thrust, he's going to thrust, and I'm set up for 4. Thrust, and he thrusts. So we're just going to go to Cinco to start with. I think it would be best. So the roll is this. If you're striking the 1, you're thrusting, you're defending against this, and then you're delivering the number 2. So we're following the numerata. Then I'm going to thrust. After I do the numerata, he's going to thrust, and 3. I'm going to thrust, he's going to thrust, and 4. I'm going to thrust, he's going to thrust, and I'm going to thrust to finish the sequence. Then he's set up to strike 1. So he's going to strike 1, he's going to thrust, I'm going to thrust, he's going to strike 2. It looks complex maybe, I hope it doesn't, but we'll go through it, and you can kind of get this back and forth. This is really, it's a type of sombrada, but it's a long-range sombrada, right? So there's this back and forth goings on, so to speak. So get a partner, and we'll show you your role, right? The defender and the attacker, and then the attacker becomes the defender. This is going to be our last variable because we're going to finish after this. This is actually it's not a variable. It's going on in the drill. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to let's see. We're going to go to diez. We're going to go the 10 strikes. So let's go through this. So I don't care who strikes. You can strike at me first. Okay. So he's striking when I'm parrying 1. He's thrusting. I'm giving this thrust, this high thrust, right? He's doing 2, and he's thrusting. I'm giving a thrust. He's doing 3 and thrusting. I'm giving this thrust. He's doing 4, thrusting, and I'm doing this thrust. Okay, so now he's going to do 5, but he's going to go 5, 6, 7. He's going to do 8 and a high thrust,
And then
a high thrust, and then I'm going to deliver a thrust. This is the barrage, so to speak. I guess we better go back. So the difference is this. We did 5, defended 5, did 5. In this case, the attacker is giving 5. You're going to defend 5, you're going to defend 6. You're going to defend 7, 8, and then the thrust. And then you're going to deliver a thrust. So you've got all these defenses, like 5 defenses or so. And then you deliver your thrust back. We'll go slow. So let's go from 5. So he goes 5, 6, 7, 8, thrust, my thrust. Now he delivers 9, and then no, just go do a thrust.
a thrust.
And thrust like this, and then he delivers. Oh yeah, I was going to 10, wasn't I?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. No, just do 9 and 10. That's easier. 9 and 10. All right. Let's go through that again. So from 5. So it's 5, 6, 7, 8. Thrust, thrust, 9, 10. Okay? And that's the sequence. That's kind of like the second. It's just going to D-ace is all it is.
Yeah.
You want to try that?
Do you want to see it one more time?
Okay. So from 5, right? We know up to there. So he delivers 5.
To say it, it's 5 to 8 thrust.
Here,
Thrust 9 to 10.
hold on, I have an emotional appointment. Okay, so 5, 6, 7, 8, thrust, thrust, 9, 10. That's it. Again. 5, 6, 7, 8, thrust, thrust, 9 and 10. You can go slow though. Go slow at that point. Well, I just wanted to have a time for you to ask questions. Really, there's so much information today that I know it's hard to grasp. But Budokan has it on film, and you'll be able to take a whole training session and do each one of these drills. Tomorrow, if you're able to make it, I don't know who can. We'll work on a few other drills, kind of new drills, but it's just additional stuff in the art. We'll work a little bit with how Alakuntra can work into an exchange drill between two people. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
And
I can't see you, but
And if I kind of heard how you said that, sounds like it's open for questions, not just about today, but just questions.
yeah. Oh yeah. Just open for questions, right?
Talked about this a little bit before. How do you prevent cutting yourself? If you have a knife and a stick, how do you prevent not chopping yourself up? Just things that happen quickly and the knife is sharp. I've seen videos where people demonstrate stuff and then they show stitches. And
Frankly, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you do get cut. I've been cut in training, but not bad cuts. Fortunately, they haven't cut an artery or anything. But one of the things you do is, a lot of our weaponry, so that we don't hurt one another, is surrogate weaponry. It represents something else, right? However, you should work with the something else as much as possible. So you have a bolo that you've dulled, have a bolo that's not dull. You have, so you're going to work with metal. Working with metal is much different. If you have any of you have the machetes out, it's a different feel.
Right.
So you want to work. Yes, you want to understand the movements with the stick. You want to see how they differ when you have metal in your hand. It's a very different feeling. When you're doing these movements, you want to know that, or you want to understand that if you hit yourself with, like you're talking about, Roy, with your other weapon, did you cut yourself then? I mean, that's a good way to recognize it. Did I cut myself just now?
Yes, or was I just cut by my training partner with their weapon? So if I'm if I'm dealing with a number 7 and the blade is turned up this way, I want to see where the blade is, right? I want to know where the blade is. It really only comes into real good play when you have a bolo and the blade is switched that way, and you're thinking, oh, how am I going to manipulate this blade if I touch the blade? There's only certain ways you can do it. So it's just repetitious training. That's what all these arts are about, is repetition. Masoyama said one punch. One punch, what does that mean? He said that you master the one punch, and once you master the one punch, it falls into place. And so with his one punch, he killed 52 bulls. So it's a good principle. What he's saying is repetition masters things, and you want to be steeped in the mental story of what you're doing. If you don't get you don't get the mental story, you won't get the art. So the mental informs the physical, and the physical then reinforms the mental. Like mentally, you can see something. Oh yeah, that's how that works. But then you do it, and you go, well, that doesn't work that way. So you have to. Those two have to connect together, right? I hope that answers your question.
It's worth noting that when he references Masoyama, that there was a relationship with Masoyama and Batikon.
Yeah, they're buds. But and if you haven't heard of him, I'm sure Ken can tell you about him. Famous martial artist. He traveled to Hawaii a lot. He influenced our kaji system, our karate system, that was a precursor for what we're doing here.
Yeah, you've heard of Kyokushin. That's Masoyama's style.
Kyokushin Nikai.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, we have Chinese Kempo, which is through Fred Lara under Mitosi. So some of you know those names, Mitosi. And then we're kind of friends, I guess you'd say, through the years with many different systems. And those systems influenced us, and we influenced them. That's the way it is. That's the way it should be, right? Especially in Hawaii, melting pot of systems.
Seems like a lot flows through Hawaii, probably just because of its location.
Yeah, especially where America's concerned, a lot of stuff came out of Hawaii. A lot of the Filipino stuff, there's some pretty heavy instructors in Hawaii that people like Dan Inosanto relied on Batikon, our teacher, to make introductions for him with some of these old masters. So that's cool. I mean, it gives us a connection with everybody. He was friends with people in Stockton, so when we were first training, we spent a lot of time down in Stockton, San Jose. We got to know these people that they're pretty much all dead now, but it influenced our art. And they were smart in the art. Many of them had come from actual years of true combat, during World War II. So they weren't just guessing at this stuff. When they tell you about what a cut does, it's because they did it. And they were good men, just like many people that are have to be in war. And Batikon, of course, was there, and Pearl Harbor was struck, and all kinds of mayhem. I don't know how that is applicable, but because he was not a soldier, he was a young man. So, but he's seeing more up close.
What other questions does everyone have?
Yes, sir.
You talked a little bit about stunning people with the point of the blade a little bit earlier. We talked a lot about striking arteries with blades and things like that. We talked a little bit earlier about maybe stunning them instead of, going for, just sticking real quick, So is there like specific, like I know the point targets for certain things, you know what I mean? But like you said, stun, like should it just be just anywhere with that?
Well, it's not stunning.
There's a lot
It's
of nerves and things.
yeah, right. In fact, I'm going to have Dr. Jack speak to that because we were talking about that. It's not just a poke, right? There's more going on than just a poke. You're not trying to drive through somebody, but you're trying to do certain things. So, Dr. Jack, tell them how it works.
Well, earlier you said multiple sticks to induce shock.
Right.
And from a medical standpoint, you got a couple of different kinds of shock. One, the most common one, is blood loss, and that's the one that you think of when you're stabbing or cutting somebody.
Right.
On the same light, when you make a cut like this in the person's neck where there's vasculature close to the surface, you're going to create a significant hemorrhage. If we are stabbing them in the upper arm, chest, little ways, it'll bleed, but not generally enough to create shock from blood loss.
Okay.
Now, you referenced targeting, and again, if we're targeting the neck or the armpits or the groin or the back of the leg, where you might take your pulse, for example,
Sure.
you're going to create the potential for more blood loss.
Absolutely.
The neurogenic shock is a psychological thing as well, and some people can't tolerate the sight of their own blood. In the pistol courses that we've talked about with Maestro Mike, the instructor talked about retention of your firearm drill, and using a blade, you're fighting to preserve your weapon. You take out your knife and you stick them 2 or 3 times, they draw a little blood, you're cut, you got to go to the hospital. And psychologically, if they're the type of person that doesn't want to like their own blood, that's enough for a pause to shut things down. The point I'm making is that shock can come from a variety of things. You can't stick somebody in the torso 2 or 3 times generally, other than to irritate him.
Okay. Keep coming after you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the point is, you can produce shock, but you're gonna, like you said,
Have to do it a bunch.
And I think your longer stick is probably gonna help you shorten the contest a lot quicker than the point of your dagger.
Sure. So I've also heard, like, if you're cut on your arm, we focus on cuts to the hand, inside, outside, things like that. It can do different things to you as well. If you get enough cuts on here, your body starts to get the blood back to the core.
You're still gonna keep pumping blood wherever there's blood vessel.
But it tries to.
And the cuts on the inside of the wrist versus the outside have more to do with the incapacitation
Enclose you and open.
from being able to flex and close your hand.
Absolutely.
And the same thing that some of the knife people talk about, cutting major muscle groups to decrease mobility.
Yeah.
Quadriceps, hamstrings, that kind of thing. They're not likely to kill you right off the bat, but they're certainly going to shut down your mobility quickly.
Sure.
And you may very well in those areas get some major blood vessels too. But
Sure.
it's a,
So we're trying to get away.
if it's my blood, I'm going to try and run away.
Yeah.
Probably pass out with the Hershey squirts.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Yes. I know there's some pressure point strikes you can use. Things you can hit on your body, it kind of numbs the arm or renders it useless. Do you do much with those?
No, I don't think they're useless. Actually, it's some people say that
well, Batikan said that some of these terms actually mean to hit the nerve. I don't know about that. I don't. This art, I don't think, is too concerned with pressure points. I think it's just concerned with where am I going to cut that guy, or what bone am I going to break. And even that is more sophisticated than it probably is. You know, it's kind of like, I'm just going to hit the guy. I'm going to hit the guy in good places, fingers, arms, you know, things like that. I'm not going to hit him try to hit him in the muscles. I'm going to try to hit him in the joints. I'm going to try to bust something. So, you know, I don't, we've never thought much about pressure points for this art. So, we're not as sophisticated, perhaps.
I didn't mean they were useless, just it makes the limb useless after you hit it.
Yeah, I guess there's some things like that. Karate, our karate had some strikes like that. And we tested them out, and they're pretty good. I mean, they work pretty good. There's a strike to the middle of the elbow, of the in part of the elbow that is pretty handy, and different strikes that we would just try out. Well, what would this do if you hit there? You know, strikes to the neck. Probably shouldn't have been doing that, but you know, there's some pretty devastating nerve strikes that you can do. Of course, you know, the main point, sternum, is very. I mean, it's that nerve bundle or whatever you want to call it. That's what's a good strike. You lose to knock the breath out of somebody. It's a good strike. Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir.
So, I haven't lost it, sorry. So, like, how much of this art is grappling? Like, do we do a lot of, we talked a little about close-up stuff, corto, things like that a little bit.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of grappling that has to do with this, or is it mainly is trying to get back up to that range?
Well,
Weapon, yes.
yeah, no, I mean, there is some, but
Weapon art,
it is primarily weapons art, yeah. So when you get into corto range, there's a lot of leg maneuvers, manipulations, foot stomps, hitting the Achilles heel. We have points behind for strikes. So we have a numbering system that go behind. Achilles heel, the backs of the knees, even the hips, back of the shoulders, the head, you know, stuff that you would hit when you go behind. But the grappling aspect of it is not really focused on much in Casag. There's takedowns, there's some throws, there's a lot of pushing around, trying to get position for a good hit, and that type of thing. There's a lot of arm bars. So it depends on, I guess, where your grappling definition goes. But there's arm bars where you're going to take a person down and retain them, you know, for how long until you can club them, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. We good? Okay, good. Well, thank you, everybody. And tomorrow, I don't know who can be here, but we'll get together for a little bit anyway. Typically, we think of our strikes as flowing in movement, except the Dungab, the thrust, is a break in the flow. So it's a break in the flow because it's not moving to any other position. It's just a thrust. It's not moving to any other position, right? These are not moving to anything. But the slashing movements, they're joined together. It's like they're knit together. So we have 4 basic sets of these. And so the first one is that I'm going to strike like a number 1 here, right? And then I'm going to strike up like this, like an 8. Then I'm going to strike a 9 like this, and I'm going to strike a 2 like this. So we've got 1, 8, 9, 2. Now from that part, that's 4, right? We're in a low position, so we're going to take 11 and 10. There's a 3 and 4. And now this one is a little bit different. This strike through here like this. This comes at a higher level of our count.
So it's more like 15 and 16. I'll show you 15 and 16 later. But my movement like this. Then I'm at a high position, so I'm going to strike straight down here, and I'm going to strike straight up here. So it's 12 moves, right? Okay, so let's do the first one. So we're going to, I'll turn this way if it's easier for you. I'm going to go from here. Typically we start out with Andam. I'm going to go 1, right? 8, 9, 2, 11, 10, 3, 4, basically 15, 16, a straight down hit to the floor, and a straight up hit. Okay? Now these hits to the floor, we don't always number these, but basically this is what we would call our number 14, but it's going to come straight down the body. This is like some of the other, reverse 10, I'm going to strike up. So let's do this again. So I'm going to go 1, 8, 9, 2, 11, 10, 3, 4, 15, 16, straight down and straight up. All right. And Ken will review these with you later because he's got them on video. So that's the first one. The second one, I'm just simply going to go 1, 2, like this, 9, 8. Now that brings me up to a high position where before I started a low position. Now I'm going to go from the top down. So I'm going to go cut here, cut here, cut here, cut here, down to the knees, down to the knees. Now I'm from this low position, so I'm going to scoop up through here and scoop down through here. So you can see the reverse sort of those movements. So let's try this again. So I'm going to start here with 1, up here, up here. Oh, no, wait, that's a different one, didn't it? Okay. So, no, is it? I don't know. It's actually there's 4. So I'm going to start here, 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 here. Is that the one I did?
It's you did 1, 2, 8, 9.
Oh, yeah.
High line, low line, low line.
It's a medicine. So 1, that's right. 2, 3, 4, and we're high line. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 1, 2, 9, 8, slash, 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 up and down. Okay. So those are 2 basic patterns. Now all we do is add in, you've got the high perspective and the low perspective. So if I go, so you go back to the first one, if I go here and here and here and here, so I'm at the low perspective now. Now I'm going to diagonal in to this strike here. This is where number 11 would be. Diagonal to there, diagonal to the hip, diagonal up to the head or the shoulder or neck. Then I'm going to take it from this side, diagonal here, diagonal there, and diagonal down here. Then I'm going to go up, and I'm going to go down. So just so you can get a sense of, I need someone to beat up on, whoever wants to be beat up. So you get a sense of where these things are going. Let's take this one that we're doing with the diagonals. So I am striking here and here and here and here. And then these diagonals are going to be here like this, and here like this. Then I'm going to go to the other side. Boom, 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 right? And then I'm going to scoop up, and then I'm going to scoop down. So here's the difference. Instead of going like this, I'm just going into these diagonals to basically the same points. I can go to the neck and cut through here. I can cut through here and cut through here and so forth. Then I come back up the body. So it's an up and down thing. So that's like the third variable of kind of the same one that we did where we're doing horizontal moves. Okay, so my next one would be, I'm going to strike here like this, and I'm going to strike 2, and I'm going to strike 9 and 8. So now I'm at this higher perspective. So then I'm going to drive in this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So all I'm doing is doing a Z across my opponent and back up. Okay. So these patterns are only so, you can get these different slash patterns going on. So you're taking in all of the horizontals, you're taking in the angles on each one, and we just simply number them so that we can say, okay, well, there's this one, and it starts this way. The truth is, it's all the same. It's all the same. It's just different configurations for it. So you have all the same, different configurations. So you go, oh, so I've got 4 sets of 12 moves. And there you have it. Yeah. So you can train with those as you go along and actually even deal with them as a defensive move. So that if I have somebody, let's say Harry, so if he's going to go Sagang Sagawas against these, so I'm going to start here, and he's going to catch me out here, right? There's that one. Now he's going to catch me here. Now he's going to catch me here. Now he's going to catch me here, right? Then he's going to have to deal with this, and this, and this, and this, and this, a little bit different, right, because of that angle, and this. And then he's going to have to deal from here, this, and this. So you deal with those angles. Thank you. You deal with those angles kind of just as they come at you, and so that's the quality of taking those angles and then working against them. Next thing would be simply a la contra, because we pretty much go Sagang and a la contra on everything. And if you're hitting at long medium range, you're just going to hit the sticks right where they are. Or if you're doing it long range, you're going to focus on where the hand is during all of these movements, right, and try to hit the hand. So those are things you can add into it. So you remember long medium, typically you're probably even medium, I guess, more like a medium range drill. So what we've got on this is that either I or Ken are going to start it out. Once we get done, we reverse what we're doing anyway, and so I would start out and so forth if Ken did. So if I start out with a 1, Ken is going to vertical stick me here like this, right? Like that. He's set up now for a 2, so he's going to draw back and hit a 2. I am set up for a 3, and he's going to vertical stick. He's set up for a 4. I'm set up for a 5. All right? So, in fact, let's just go through Cinco first, and then we'll go on to Doce. Okay. That sound good? Yeah. Now, after he blocks 5, right? Now he can just set up and strike 1. So he's going 1 like this. I'm going 2. He's going 3. I'm going 4. He's going, he's going 5. Yeah, sometimes you get, point down 2 is fine on some of these. Because when we go further, we sort of change our tactic for these thrusts. So let's just go to Cinco.
To Cinco.
Yeah, to start with. So if I'm blocking 1 vertical stick, my hand comes in through this window. If I'm blocking 2, it comes in through this open window. 3, just like 1. 4, just like 2, right? 5, so it's the same. It's the same back and forth, right? Always the same. It's just because of where your weapon is. So go ahead and start, and then we'll come around.
I spoke to some of you yesterday a little bit about where being at long range while you do a medio tactic can go wrong. And then let's maybe talk. Can I work with you, Justin? Let's maybe talk about that. So as you work, vertical stick to me is a good example of this. If I think about being long range to this, so you go ahead and strike your 1, and I'm in here, right, thinking vertical stick. Well, consider his angle to my angle. This is continuing. It's not going to change. Even if I'm here, even if I'm super strong, that's not safe for me. So the best way to match vertical stick is also perpendicular. So if he comes in 1, facing, right? It gets me close enough to reach this. That's another part. This becomes a long distance to a short distance. But it also puts me in a place where I'm structurally safer to stop this energy. Whereas when I'm here, I don't have that. Okay, so if we go angle 2, same thing. So as you're working, we go angle 3. I kind of want to get to where I'm facing the way the stick is approaching me, or the blade, or whatever it is. If I'm going to do a stop, I don't want to face him anymore, because I'm not stopping him. He's going to come right through that, and my range is lost, right? I have a hard time here. But as we face the weapon, now I've got all of these options here, because I've gotten closer and I've put myself in a structurally better place to receive that. Does that make sense? So when I talk about being long range while doing a medio tactic and how that goes wrong, that's kind of what I mean. Maestro talked about meeting mid-arc. And so mid-arc is an important place, but if I stay out, I don't meet mid-arc, I meet further into the arc. And it's no longer as good of an option. In fact, once it gets to there, I really need to change tactics and do something different, because meeting that at that point is lost. Okay. Maybe? Okay, great. Question, yeah. When you're talking about when you're meeting in this way? Right. Absolutely. There's a reason why this hand lives in this area, and it's monitoring. So if I'm here and I do this and he comes in with that hand, that's what this hand is doing. Now you monitor with other things too. Your elbow, your situation. I'm here, he comes in with that, maybe I'm here. Right? So you paying attention to it. The nice thing about what we do when we train and we build these habits is we learn our vulnerabilities, and we can kind of reduce our thought about things that aren't vulnerable and maintain awareness of the things that we are. And so you're absolutely right. When I come in here, every part of that's trouble. So I have this, I have this, I have dropping, I have places, or sometimes we're switching so that I can change that situation. So when you get into medium range, and medium range is the most dangerous one, because you're not in enough to shut things down and you're not far enough out to keep yourself safe. So that back and forth happens the worst there, which is why we typically don't want to stay there. We either need to get in or get out and don't really want to live there. Thank you, sir.
So we tend to teach 3 switches. We think of Alakuntra oftentimes as a switch. Now by switch, I mean we don't like the inside, we want to be to the outside, right? So I'm going to switch off to the outside. This is kind of a rabbit trail, by the way. So I switch to the outside because I don't like the inside. But in long range, for example, the switch is natural. So if Ken strikes at me.
Let's go over here where we got a little more light, so we aren't
Sorry about
on
that.
the video. Roy, do you want to come to this side? Just so that it's a little more visible.
Okay.
So
So when we're talking about long range, right, I'm not talking about, when he's driving in 1 to me, I'm not talking about stopping there, or I'm not even talking about stopping there, right? If I connect him here, the only thing I have to watch out for is when this stick flies out of his hand, right? Because if I hit him in the hands and bust these right, chances are it's going to come towards me. But when I talk about a natural switch, I'm talking about 1 and through, right? So it's switched from this side, right, this side, here, it's where it connects, and I'm going through. Even if he drops his stick at that point, I'm coming through. So a switch always sets me up for a real good return hit. So go real slow. So he's hitting through here, and my switch comes back this way, right? My switch, and so forth. But the switch is just when I'm on the inside. So if I'm on the inside, switch to the outside. Yeah, that's the switch. So let's say I'm coming at a closer range, and I'm coming in this way, and then I switch to this outside. That's what I want to do, because that suppresses the ability of these weapons, and that's why we do it. Okay? Okay, so that was just a rabbit trail, sure. But I want to go on now. So I've had you use vertical stick, and I want you to continue to this point. So you can use vertical stick on 1, right? I use it on 2. I use it on 3. I use it on, or he uses it on 4. But now 5's coming in, so I want us to go now Sagang, Sagawas. Right, so you're going inside on all these with Alakuntra, vertical stick, but now Sagang, Sagawas, all of a sudden. But that is because we're following the numerata. So now I'm coming in with 6. He's going to vertical stick me there. The reason is he's set up for his number 7, right? So I have to go Sagang Sagawas here. So Sagang Sagawas, Alakuntra, Sagang Sagawas. Now from this point here, now I'm going to come into 8, and it goes back to vertical stick, right? He's going to come in with 9. I'm going to come in with 10. He's going to come in with 11. And I'm going to come in with 12. Always take this weapon first. Okay? So you're always going to go Sagang Sagawas on 12. Again? You want to do it again? So let's go from 5. So he strikes 5. I'm going to go here. So I'm doing the other roll now. And I'm going to deliver a 6. He's going to go I guess it's the same one. He's going to do 7. I'm going to come through here. I'm going to go 8. And we're there. Basically, that's it. That's the switch, and everything else is Alakuntra. Yeah, vertical stick. Okay, try it, and we'll come around.
Can we go one more time through just the whole thing?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So he's going 1, I'm going 2. He's going 3, I'm going 4. He's going 5, I'm going to take it that way. I'm going to do 6. He's going to do 7, I'm going to do 8. He's going to do 9, I'm going to do 10. He's going to do 11, and I'm going to do 12. Okay? Once you get these sequences down, you can have a lot more fun with it because you can go faster through it. You can keep switching. And there is a cadence that there's these nuances that they're hard to write about or hard to put down, but there's nuances in movement that we have in Casag. The best way to put this is that they're rooting movements. I'm rooting in my movements. So the rooting has to do with dropping of center of gravity, kind of like roots go down to the ground. And it also has to do with some twisting. But when I talk about this, this is a good drill to work on this with. So he's striking 1. So you see what happened there? Is I'm just kind of, and usually you get a 1-2 in your step or in your footwork. 1-2, and my center of gravity is dropped. So I'm moving through here. So that's the rooting aspect of this. I'm going to deliver 2, and I root there. Right? He's going to deliver 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, however 9 is, 10, this way, 11, and 12. So you see this rooting aspect in when we were training with 12, where I had you kind of go, all of a sudden you're going like this. That's that rooting idea. Center of gravity drops. Feet are generally flat on, well, you might have one up. The back heel might be up. You can do it either way. And it's like it's all ending there, right? Because you're doing this rooting position.
And we both do it. If you watch the drill, the person striking does it just as much as the person defending.
Right. Right. It's a little nuance, but it is a characteristic of combat that's important. Here, there's one thing that I can do.
Okay, so
I've got this here. I want it out of the way so I can hit him here. I might do that. Of course, then I'm going to take it away. But so I can do that. So I'm having you check here, but there are a variety of ways to do this checking. So maybe I stop him here. You strike at me, Jack. So I'm going to stop him here, but I'm going to come to this side now. See, so I'm not in this side. I'm not stopping. I'm pushing him to this side when I'm destroying this hand here. It could be that he comes in through here like this, and I'm going to throw him down so I can slash here. So there's so many variables that you can train with. You can say, okay, we'll take this number 1. Now take this number 2. So now 2's coming back to me. So I'm coming back. Here's 2, right? I've got an immediate thrust, right? I've got this movement. I've got the push and move off to the side. I've got this movement through here. I can move this out and destroy this hand. I've got this movement here. I can then take it this way and go this way, all right? So I'm going my Payong. Yeah. So Payong can happen within a movement. It doesn't have to just be the initial thing. It's just the movement of it. So you can take each one of these and have some fun with each one. Yeah.
And the question came up.
Excuse me.
To make sure I'm not giving Harry a bum steer. It really doesn't make any difference where your weight is, as much as you're connected to the ground before you actually.
Yeah, and typically your excuse me, your center of gravity is going to drop, so your weight goes straight down.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm going to go take a drink.
Right before your foot touches the ground, that all of your body weight is in that strike.
Yes.
As long as one foot's grounded.
At least.
You know,
Yeah.
I want to see you do the
Wait.
I want to see the difference.
Yeah. I want to jump on you.
as you're shifting
We know what
your
you
weight
mean.
from, you know, if you get just a nanosecond ahead of yourself,
Yeah.
you're not grounded either place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And
right.
then all you got is
that's right.
Yeah, and that movement forward where you're kind of doing that step in, that's a little bit different than rooting. The reason is that if you notice what happens with if you put a line of your gravity, right, and when you're doing this and the center line is shaped differently as opposed to this, right? So that's the only thing. That's the only nuance, I guess. Yeah.
makes sense.
And there's a cool little bit of physics in There's a cool little bit of physics in the chicken step itself, too, because when you have that, I come over here. So sometimes you'll see it this, which is kind of different than this. And the thing about this is that if I stay forward and I draw this up, then gravity puts me forward. So all of my mass immediately falls into it. Works especially well on a low line. Roy, can I borrow you? PJ, say strikes low for the leg. I'm not really moving this, and because I'm not, if I stay here, that's happening. And so you get that acceleration. You talked about it taking time to get from here to here. Well, if your weight is forward into that front leg, into this position, then when you release this, everything drives forward. You tip in front of this foot, and then that push is driving in. So if I'm switching into here and chicken stepping on that 12, by having the weight already forward, that accelerates everything that happens next. Yeah, at least that's an interpretation I
That's
have.
very good. Chicken step 101. Chicken step 102.
Chicken step 102, all right. Let's do
'Cause I think I showed you. We use a tactic. It's just a stomp, but it's also a lock. A lock because of weight. So if he comes into step on my foot to get a movement there, when he's coming in for that, the chicken step is to step on his foot. Right? So I'm going to trap his foot. And that's what that is for also. Also, if I'm out through here and I move, let's say, to the side, and I want to stomp on this foot through here, it lets me hook him through here. So I'm pressuring here and I'm moving here. So he's going to be off base. If I want to take this further, I just take it further. So it puts my feet in position. Yeah, it's the secret on. Puts my feet in position. So that's another aspect. It's a 102. That's all. Yeah, right. Right. And then there is because I want to gain positions in certain locations of my opponent, right? So maybe he's come in and I've defended. I don't know what, like this, and so the chicken step draws me in through here. I don't know if you got a chicken step or a hop, but it draws me into this side here, or I could come to this side here. Now those are just positions from which I can hook around through here like this, draw him forward, or I can come to the inside and I can either push this out, but more likely I'm going to hit that leg there. So I'm closer in and I can manipulate him there. And I can
get those like shin drives.
Yeah, like a shin drive. Yeah, right.
Where you're in or
exactly right. Yeah, you can lock into the leg. Yeah. So there's other purposes, I guess, for that. Okay, so I wanted to talk about our Doble Kara, our double stick. So typically we talk about movements that are point up and movements that are point down. It's pretty intuitive. It's pretty obvious that if I have a high move, the points of my stick aren't going to be down. They're going to be up, right? I'm going to be moving up. If I have a low move, my points have to come down because I'm dealing with a lower type of movement. So we practice quite a bit in Abierto Estilion. All that is Benasaya for open style, open style primarily. So we do this in several ways, and I'm sure some of it you're familiar with. One is, it typically uses another term called bahin bahin. It just means side to side is all it is. So if I'm going to strike with Ken, and I'm going to strike a 1 here, and he's going to deal out a Sagang Sagawas, right? I'm going to strike a 2, and he's going to go Sagang Sagawas, tip up. He's going to go 3, tip down, 4, and 5, right? If I go back to 6, I go to 7. See, so 7 is a little bit different. We're not coming across the body anymore. I go to 8, I go to 9, and I go to 10 if I'm going to de-ace, right? So that's all it is. It's a side-to-side movement. So the foundation is what we just did for Sagang Sagawas. For our next foundation of Alakuntra, all it is when I strike at Ken, he's going to defend me with this side here. So he's going to defend with this side, right? And he's going to defend here. He's going to defend here, and here, and here. Yeah. So, I mean, you can go point up. That it goes into vertical stick, and you go down lower. So I guess I shouldn't say you always go low like that. So, so he's got that option for Alakuntra. Now, if I go Sagang Sagawas, and let's say we go back to the story of each angle, right? And he strikes me Sagang Sagawas from there. This is loaded. That's the point. That this is loaded. This really couldn't do much damage to him. That's why this is going to come in through here. So when I'm doing this double system, it's going to be double stick system. It's going to be like this. There's going to be my hits. It's going to be back and forth, side to side, and that's basically it. He comes to this side over here. I'm going to take it with this, right? This is loaded. Now, I could cross and do this. I could cross and do that too. That's an aspect as long as I'm not crossing like this and doing it. So I could cross. So there's 2 ways, is crossing and then taking it. If he's with his right hand, I'm with my left hand, I'm with my right hand. So my right takes care of his left and vice versa. In my long range methodology, he's going to strike in at me, and I'm just going to be moving from here, right? So I'm not going to touch this stick. So I'm going to move from here. I'm always trying to go over to this direction. I have some choices. I can shuffle step to this way to gain offline movement, or I can do our cross step, which is from here, and I'm crossing back this way to gain this position back here. So along with our Usa Duhatulo stepping, that is another way for me to step. So it doesn't change too much if I cross my sticks with his this way, like this, because I'm still going to move off to the side here. There's a little bit of an advantage, well, not advantage, but anytime we cross like this, it also presents a barrier to that side, right? So if he come in this side, it's a little more difficult, but I mean, if he came in over the top through there, I still have this movement through here. So what I'd like to do is start out with the first method, that being Sagang Sagawas 1, and we can go, we'll go long medium range, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and just go to 10. Okay? So we'll start out with that, and then we'll move to other fun stuff. What I want to do is I just want you to go to at least 3 counters. Now, when that happens, I'm going to strike at Guru Ken, and he's going to go 3 counters around me. So he's going to parry through there. 1, 2, 3. Now look what the problem is I've got here. I've got him behind me. I have to decide to deliver number 2. Am I going to turn this way, or am I going to turn the other way? So since I'm hitting with this weapon through here, I'm going to have to turn, and I'm going to have to hit here. Now he's way back there, so I'm going to have to bring this into play through here. Okay? So let's do that. So you're going at least 3 moves where you're getting around, but the guy that's doing the striking has to know how to move around the other guy. Right? Because it may be that he's moving and you're able to counter with your own moves off to another direction and you have to turn. So if I strike at Ken and he blocks me here and he starts to move around me, if I move in unison with him, it's going to be tougher for him to do his wares.
Right.
Okay? So try that a little bit, but the guy getting pummeled, just be pummeled, and then your next strike.
That's right.
The pummel and the pummeler. Pummeled and the pummeler. That's it. All right, so try that for a little bit and we'll move on. I want to be hurting my partner with the tip of the stick. So if I find myself too close, all I have to do, if I'm here with Ken, for example, I move this way, right? Now if I'm going to come in here and hit him this way, that's not so good. So in order to get my distance, maybe I'm going to step out and deliver this through here like this. Maybe I'm going to step again and deliver it through here like this, so I can get this long range. So he comes in with the next move, right? So I'm going to take him there. I took him a little low, but that's okay because you're turning. I'm going to take him through here, there, there, there. Boom. Sorry about two sticks like that, different style. Through here. Okay. The low movement. This will be delivering to the tip of the stick, and this is there. So you've got, in essence, you've got long, medium happening with one weapon, and long happening with the other. Right. I mean, there's small distinctions, but it's basically what's happening.
The lead weapon is the first one that hits?
Yeah, it's really the cross weapon. So if you're hitting with your right, I'm hitting with my right. So it's just like we were doing regular Sagang Sagawas, except it's taking the weapon from here because there's a good enough distance, and this is moving in here. So this is already sort of in there. If you happen to move fast with that next move, right through here, and that one came in fast, I'm already there for this. I don't need much energy to deflect, right? So I'm deflecting, but this one is going to be loaded for the hit, right? So if you're striking like with number 1, right? There's number 1, but that's going to be my hit against the hand, so it's stronger. That's a shadow method.
So we're going to go ahead and do what we just did was the same side variation where we're going Sagang with the opposite hand, same side of the body as you. So if you strike with angle 1, I use the same side hand as angle 1. Now we're going to do the opposite side, so I'm coming here. Okay, so it's still a Sagang motion. I'm just using right for right, left for left instead. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and we'll add the counters just like we did. Or do you want to do it without counters first? Okay, so as we come here, you come here. 1, this one's already loaded. I still have my same motions. As you come into 2, same thing. Into 3. So, yeah, it was. I was right the first time.
Yeah.
Somebody's got his knife in his pocket.
The mental chore is remember which hand
Or
is
something.
going
I
to
hit something. Yeah, that's right. That's right. There's the one that feels good and the one that you're supposed to do.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll go through 10. Yeah, so same things are going to happen. We're doing kind of a long medium, so there's still the shaping of the weapon. So instead of being out and targeting here, we're still shaping that tool so that we can access these and make sure that as we stay this close, that we're not staying in the trajectory of the weapon. So you'll feel that a little more on these as you go into 8. As I come in, you can feel the shape of that change. Ready? Yes. That's okay. Yeah, it's just the wrong hand. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna go 6. Yeah. the most natural feeling you'll ever have is interchanging these as necessary. But while you restrict it to what you're learning, it doesn't always feel as natural. That was right. It was only the doubt that was wrong. Okay, so once again. Okay, so. Ooh, ooh, ooh. This one, perhaps.
Good, it's good. Okay, so let's look at gunting, the gunting. I've had students that think gunting was only hitting someone's arm. It's so much more than just that, and it involves it involves scissor type movements, but it is open and closing of the scissors. And in Ebirto, it is going to be the opening and closing, but then the scissors break apart, so to speak. So if we take number 1, for example, if Ken strikes at me number 1, it doesn't matter if I come from the outside in. Now this is going to be most natural if I'm just standing, because you maybe won't stand like that, right? So it's going to be most natural for me to move this way. This can be against the weapon at long, medium range. It can be here even at long, medium range. So you're hitting this. But this one that is Sagang clears it out of the way. Then I'm going to deliver this, or whatever I'm going to deliver. Next one comes in, maybe I'm going to be closed. That one takes it away. Here, 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 wherever. This one, maybe this way. I don't know. Next one, I'm going to have to close it this way. Next, maybe 5, this way, right? But I'm pushing away with the one that's Sagang. That's all it is. But if I go a la contra, and he comes in here, so I move it, and I have to hold this, right? And then there's my hit in there if I go with the gunting method. I'm not taking it further. So same way with this one, right? I'm holding or sustaining. Now it might go past. This might become Sagang, right? But we're talking about moments within seconds, I guess, or seconds within just a little bit. So I'm moving off this way, like this. We won't do it, but it just made me think that the ala contra of what we were just doing is like that. So if he strikes 1 in ala contra, and I'm going this way, and this one strikes like this, right? 2, like this, and so on throughout. You're going ala contra with 1, you're slashing on the inside with the other. So that's the ala contra aspect.
You're maintaining a little bit more of a barrier rather than just letting that continue.
Right. Yes, right. So it's not even crossing at this point. It's just that's open style. Yeah. So I could go this way. I could go ala contra this way, but then I'm going to have to somehow get management over this one here. So it doesn't work as well from here to go ala contra, but I can go ala contra here. The reason it doesn't work is because this often goes right into the hand. But when this is hit, so it usually moves out this way. Starts ala contra, goes into Sagang. Okay? All right, so the cross stick movement, all you have to remember is however I catch it, if I catch it this way, like this, right, I'm going to open up here. If I catch it this way, like this, easier to open up because it's just more conducive to it. So I come in this way, I'm crossing, right? And you saw me at one point, you can even pop this way and get a double hit, but then you're open style. Right? Comes in this way. There's a little bit different style, point up, point down. Right? And so forth. So this one is going to be this way. So when Jack strikes at me, right, he's going to strike at me. This is going to simply take it while this one loads. He strikes number 2, right? Pow, pow. This one is kind of the controlling factor in the middle. 3 like this. Like that. So I'm not going to push, I won't push these together like that. I won't go back and forth like that. When we get to up and down style, then, and he strikes in like, he'll strike in 1. Then I'm going to have 1 up like this. So I'm going to have it like this. This is going to retain or push away while this one deals with whatever's on this side. So typically it's going to be a dagger here and the dagger here, like that. Which this is typically where we get this circular up and down hit. But so that's just a little bit different. It sort of starts out. I mean, it's not really gunting. He's coming in, and because I'm on one side. So I'm on this side. Where gunting is like this, right? So I'm going to gunt and push, or I'm going to gunt and retain and do my wares in here. But this way is on the same side. Right, so on the same side from my movement there. If he strikes from this side over here, it's on the same side here like this. And then I can come this way, or from the same side this way like this, I can then deal with this hand here. So it's just a little bit different.
Style is where you're kind of staying to one side.
Yeah, this is kind of from Hinoplos, and the other one, I don't know where it could be from, who knows where it's from.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's the difference is the definite trap, or even if you extend out a little bit and you use one as a hit against the arm, it's still going to be outside inside, right? And this one is going to clear back, and that's one is going to hit. So if I have a blade, right, maybe I stop through here like this or through here like this, and I'm slicing with both of those as I'm opening up.